Ship up to broadcast depth. We're going in.
I always forget how good this intro is. All right, gentlemen, here we go. I get to host today. It's my duty. I have the duty. I have with me John Fitch. I've got Troy Francis, who I presume is still in Turkey. And we'll have some others joining very soon. Welcome to Zero.
All right, then.
And now you guys are in. What's going on, guys? How are you?
Very good, man. Very good. I escaped Turkey. I escaped Turkey, Rollo. I'm in Berlin now.
Oh, Berlin. Oh,
One Piece.
Yeah, I got out.
How was that for you?
It was awesome, man. It was fantastic. I'd never been before. I was there with Tusk, and John MLD was, of course, over there as well. And it was it's a very, very fascinating place. Just crazy chaos all over the place, but really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man. I'm a big fan.
I have an open invitation to go to Istanbul from Dr. Oz, who I was on Tori's show actually on Thursday, I believe it was. And if you don't know who Dr. Oz is, Dr. Oz, he goes by Dr. Red Pill, but he's a cosmetic surgeon, and legitimately he works in Turkey, and he also works in, I believe, Philadelphia. So he's got like dual citizenship. I was on Fresh and Fit with him, I think back in June is when we were doing it. And really, really interesting, good, very good dude. I will probably be doing some live streams with him in the future. He's helping me work on a Turkish translation, actually, of my first book, and really wants me to come out to Istanbul because apparently, and maybe you can confirm this, there's a lot of guys out there who are like sort of in a red pill community or in the manosphere community. I don't even know what to call it, but like really sort of this male self-improvement thing. And they're sort of look at Dr. Oz as the, I guess their leader at this point.
Well, we didn't meet many people who were sort of in that community, but then to be fair, I was only there for a few days. It was pretty chilled. We were just sort of like hanging out with John and Mrs. MLD and stuff. So I don't know, but I mean, certainly I think there's a lot of guys out there who need some help, quite frankly, from what I've heard. I think the guys that find the dating scene over there very difficult, for various reasons like cultural and how they've been conditioned and stuff. So I think certainly getting over there and sort of helping out and spreading the word is going to be a good thing to do.
Oh, excellent. Hey, holy fuck. Is that John Fitch? The real John Fitch, the old MMA fighter? Is that who you are? What are you doing, man?
Nothing much. Working on more fitness programs and been teaching a lot of privates. I got some new kids here in town, some wrestlers that are looking to get better. So always working, always doing something.
Do you have any programs coming up? I mean, you usually do like intensives or something like that, like every so often.
Every once in a while I'll do seminars. I'll go out and do a seminar, but I don't have anything booked in the moment. So if you need somebody to come to your school and do a seminar, whether it's jiu-jitsu, wrestling, self-defense, MMA, I'm your guy. You can reach me through DMs or johnfish.net.
Cool. All right, guys. So people have been asking me to do this topic, and it kind of like, I guess, segues or dovetails into, I think, a greater topic. And I know this is a subject near and dear to Troy's heart, so I'm kind of glad Troy's along for the ride here today too. But I'm gonna show you guys this video real quick. This is Chris Williamson. And then, of course, everybody knows Leonardo DiCaprio has decided that he's going to dump his girlfriend. Dump your girlfriend. Where'd it go? This is it.
Dump that bitch.
That's the order of the day. So I want to start with this really quick because it seems like you and I think pretty much everybody in the sphere has at some point shown off this this graph, and we'll talk about it here in just a second. But let me open this up here right fast.
Who shared yesterday on Twitter a graph of Leonardo DiCaprio's age and his girlfriend's ages. It went viral on the Data is Beautiful subreddit. Can you explain what that graph shows, please?
Yeah, so hopefully you'll be able to put it on the screen, but it basically shows, like, as Leonardo's age goes up linearly, the age of his mates stays roughly the same at about 25. It was down at around 18, 19 when he's a little bit younger, but it seems to be 25 that is his cutoff point. For the last maybe 9 or 10 girlfriends, it's been a consistent pattern.
They reach 25 and then he replaces them with another one.
Yeah, and it sparked some wild discourse, online, and it's revealed a lot of kind of intrasexual competition and stuff like that. So you have some women talking about, saying, he's such a creep, he's old enough to be their father, which I think is interesting. Whenever women or people criticize a big age gap relationship, what they do is they leverage our incest disgust by saying things like, he's old enough to be her father. And it's not related. There's no genetic link at all. It's not disgusting on that level, but they leverage that our intuitive feeling of incest disgust. But it's and another comment I saw on this Leo age gap thing is, it's such a sign that he's immature and not able to attract women his own age, and any guy who does that is such a creep. And that's just so purely intrasexual competition. Of course, women over the age of 30 would still be interested in Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, that is no mystery. It's not exactly horrible for these women to be dating handsome, mega millionaire movie star Leonardo DiCaprio. It's not hell, right? Another interesting take I saw on it, which was a weird twist, is someone said, I think it's actually kind of nice that he knows he can't go beyond 25 with a woman, and but at least he's not taking away her fertile years. She still has chance to recover it. It would be worse if he pushed it all the way to 30 and then just cut and left, which you can kind of say, I don't know how intentional that is. That might be a charitable interpretation of Leo's behavior. But it's I put it up, put up the graph and said, if only we had a grand meta theory of human psychology and human nature to explain Leonardo DiCaprio's preference for beautiful, fertile young women. It's people getting very, very excited about this graph.
The interesting thing is, I didn't see any of the girls talk about this online, but it has to be a signal in the same way as one of the best ways to be attractive as a man is to walk into the club with a couple of girls on your arm that are both attractive and seem to give you attention. It has to be the case that somewhere deep in the programming of some women, they look at the fact that Leo is able to date a woman that's half his age and think he's getting something right there.
All right, let me halt it right there. Well, we're about a third of the way through this, so I wanted to get Troy's response to all this, as far as the idea of getting with a woman who is much younger, triggering the quote unquote incest, I guess, dynamic. I don't know how else to put it, but do you unmute yourself, man?
Yeah, man. I saw that clip earlier, actually. Chris Williamson does some great stuff. And the guy that was on with him, I'm not sure that guy's name, but I think that was a really interesting point about the incest discuss, because as he rightly says, of course, it's a great thing to say. And everybody recoils in horror, like, oh my God, he's old enough to be their father. But of course, there is no genetic link. He's not their father. She's a fully grown woman. He's a fully grown adult man. They've come together quite literally, and that's it. So it is a sort of a shaming tactic, isn't it? And I think it's good that it's interesting that he pointed that out. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's one of these sort of hypocrisies, isn't it, that we see in the modern age, where it's verboten to shame almost any form of relationship. But if it's a heterosexual relationship between a guy and a woman who is much younger than him, then that is seen as a horrific, terrible thing. Whereas almost every other kind of relationship, if you shamed it in the same way, you would be basically cancelled for doing so. I don't see anything wrong with what his dating life. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's his own business, and I don't think anybody else should either, right?
Pitch. What do you say?
Yeah.
Younger girls, right?
Leonardo's not the only one.
Before we start this, how old are you, John, and how old are you, Troy?
Yeah, I'm 44 right now.
And Troy's like 46. Where are you at?
48.
48. Okay. So like the women that you're dating right now, and you're still in the game. So clearly you guys are dating women who are younger than yourselves.
Yeah. I've had a girlfriend for a little while, and she's 27. She just turned 27.
Attaboy.
And yeah.
Cradle.
Yeah. Leo's not the only one in hot water though for dating younger. Recently Dane Cook came under fire because he's engaged to he's like 50, he's engaged to his 23-year-old girlfriend, and they started dating when she was 18, so he's a monster. And then that band Arcade Fire, their lead singer, is under some hot water because he was late 30s, and he was hooking up with 18, 19, 20-year-old girls, women, legal women who could vote for the president.
Yeah, let me put you back here. Okay, but you know who's not in the legal hot? You know who's not in hot water? You know who's the superhero in all this? This guy right here.
Yeah.
So I want to throw this out there as sort of like this parallel to the this is like the anti Leonardo. When these pictures came out, this, by the way, this is Keanu Reeves and his girlfriend. I don't know her name off the top of my head. I think she was like one of his like PR girls or girls, one of his PR women who he became, that's his girlfriend. Okay. And now Keanu is, I believe he's my age. I believe he's like 54, 55, something like that. And she is actually, I believe she's like 40. Well, probably now she's about 47 because I think this shot was from like a couple of years ago. So people made a big deal out of this because she kind of looks like his mom. And I think what was interesting was the reaction to that shot during the time was one of like, oh, I love him that much more because he's with an age appropriate woman. And I'm okay. So there's two things going on here. First off is the age difference between, say, Keanu Reeves and his girlfriend, and then the age differences between Leonardo DiCaprio and his, he cycles the girls out at 25. Also, by the way, I looked through my archives because I wanted to see how old this thing was. I have some other earlier posts of this. I think this graph goes as far back as like 2018, but one of my first Twitter posts about this was back in the Pat Campbell days. And this is what we were talking about here. It's like, I thought this was funny because it's like they kept saying, Leonardo DiCaprio refuses to date women who are older than 25. And I was like, refuses, really? Maybe it's just simply because that's where he's at and that's what he can do. And then I also said this, I said, Leo has the luxury to follow his evolved biological imperative. So this graph is like, I know, Chris Williamson, I forget who this guy is here in the interview. They think that this is like some new revelation, but this graph has been around for quite some time right now. And we've known about this for a while. Yeah. And it resurfaces, of course, now that you got to remember. So let's see, what's her name? Camilla Morrone was 20 when they met. And he was 43 when they met. And so that was, now she's 25. So that would have been 3 years ago. So now he's he's pushing 50 at this point, right?
He's 47, I think.
47. Yeah. And so now he's done with her and he's moved on to the next one. I'll show you who the next one is here after the next clip. But, so we kind of have two things going on here. We've got, good, dependable, loyal, age appropriate Keanu Reeves. And we've got, this guy. Actually,
what's the age gap still between Keanu and? Because he's up to almost to 60.
Somebody in the chat will give it to me. I'm pretty sure he's like
still like 15 years or 15 plus years or so in between them.
Yeah. And let's see. I know that, well, Keanu is in his mid 50s. I think she's in her like mid to late 40s. And again, I don't really remember her name. But I guess, it's funny. It's like they're saying, it's impressive. It's impressive that a guy like Leonardo can still pull, 20s, 25 year old. And of course, he's Leonardo DiCaprio. And I will guarantee you, if you haven't seen them already, there's probably some shots of Leo with the dad bod going. Like there's all kinds of like, the paparazzi follow him around and they want to, catch him in like, I don't know, Cancun or wherever. And catch him with his shirt off, and they go, "Oh, can you believe this guy is like pulling 20-year-olds?" And it's like, yeah, actually, I can't believe that.
Well, I think it's. For a start, like you said, he's Leonardo DiCaprio, so that's gonna cover a multitude of sins anyway. But secondly, I don't actually think. There's a huge issue with all of this stuff in the Anglosphere, but when you step out of the Anglosphere, it becomes much less of an issue. The majority, like I've dated girls of various ages, but the majority have been in their 20s. And I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a famous movie star or anything like that. So it's perfectly plausible for a guy, as long as you keep yourself in reasonable shape, you're reasonably decently dressed, you look after your grooming, you've got a bit of, banter, you've got a little bit of game or whatever you want to call it. In many parts of the world, it's perfectly feasible for you to date women who are younger without any problem at all. It's not really a big deal. We think it's a big deal, or increasingly we think it's a big deal in the Anglosphere because we like to get caught up on these things, but it really isn't. And for DiCaprio, somebody like DiCaprio, he's gonna. I think you called the stream the Perpetual Bachelor or something, but he's going to be able to carry on with this and forever if he wants to.
Yeah, and that's the second half of this discussion right here. The first half, of course, is like what's age appropriate, and I think one of the things I don't necessarily think it's so much.
If you're old enough to cast a vote that affects other people's lives, you're old enough to date whoever you want to date.
I would say so. You guys have probably heard
there should be no restrictions. If you're a legal adult and you can make all these decisions and you can vote on things that affect other people and taxes, like you should be at a level where you're smart enough to date whoever you want to date.
Well, I don't know why this has suddenly come into question.
Oh, I do.
Seemingly in the last. Well,
I know why. Yeah, I know why too.
These are women in their 20s. Remember, there's not even any sort of like. There's not even any question around this, is there? These are the current woman that he's dating. I think she's 22. She's a Ukrainian model.
Yeah, I'm gonna go dig her picture up here in just a second.
She was married before, apparently, or she was with some dude before. There's no question that these are adult women, and so the very fact that shade is being thrown at this is kind of inconceivable, really.
Yeah, well, I think one of the reasons why shade is being thrown at this is because honestly, I think it kind of reminds women of their, I don't say mortality because it's not really mortality, but it's like, I think it reminds women that their sexual market value is not evergreen and it's not imperishable. It decays. And I think one of the things that Chris Williamson and this guy were discussing here, I think that's important to kind of keep in mind throughout this entire conversation is one of the reasons this rubs women the wrong way, especially when you track it. Like now we live in the the data age where we can create graphs about Leonardo DiCaprio's sex life, right? So we can like track back through the ages here. Seriously, we live in a time where this exists, right? They went back as far as Leo being 24 years old and getting with his first girlfriend. Who is that? Is that Giselle? Who is that? Giselle Bunsen, whatever. His first girlfriend, she was 16 and he was 24 when they got together. And then as soon as she hit 23, bam, moved on to the next. And then and now he's 30 and his next girlfriend is 20 years old. Bam, gets to 25 there or she gets to 25. Now he's 35 and he's moved on out. Who's it? Tony Garn. I'm sorry. I have a real tough time reading that. she's 23. Gets rid of her. Now he's on to 22 with the next one. Now he's on to 20, and you can see like the age limit ends up topping out at about 25 years old, and that's of course it's probably a joke now in Hollywood, but that's Leo saying, you know what, this is me. This is what works for me, and this is what I want to keep doing. And I think what happens is it reminds women, because he's a celebrity, and has been a celebrity really since I think Titanic or maybe like Gilbert Grape or whatever. Right.
His whole life. He was in,
Yeah.
he was on, Growing
Wasn't Gilbert Grape? What was it? What was the other? I know he's in another one too. Yeah. It wasn't no. I'm thinking Giant Jump Street. I think like way back in like the early 90s or something like that.
He's been on the screen a long time.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic actor. Not to take anything away from the guy. I can remember when people were giving like George Clooney a bunch of shit because George Clooney got married once, got divorced, and said, "You know what? Marriage isn't really for me. I'm not going back to that." And then of course he gets married again, later on. And again, we'll bring that up in the latter part of the show. But for right now, I think one of the reasons why women get rubbed the wrong way here is because when you look at this, I'm going to throw this up here again. When you look at the prime ages of between, let's just say 20 and 25 right there, that's where, right around 23 is where I usually peg women's peak sexual market value years right there. If not fertility, certainly they're most, they're at their most powerful, right? They're at their prime. That's when men want women the most. That's when men report that, across the age spectrum from 15 all the way to 90, men want that particular age demographic. And Leonardo DiCaprio can regularly get that. As soon as she's 25, he moves back to the next girl who's 21 or something like that. And it's a predictable pattern. It's a predictable framework for him. And I think it's indicative of like men's innate natural mating strategy if they could do that. Leo
that's the thing, because he's got practically limitless options, really. He could be dating anybody. He could be dating a woman in her 30s. He could be dating a woman in her 40s if he wanted to, and what does he choose to do? He chooses to date a string of women in their early 20s. So that's got to say something, right? If you're a man who could do anything, you could have any kind of dating life you wanted to, and that's what he chooses to do.
Yeah.
Isn't he just doing what most guys would do if they were honest and if they had the options?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not, because you've already shown the example of Keanu Reeves, and Keanu Reeves isn't doing that, and he would have similar options, I would think. But I think what you just said, Rollo, we all remember that graph, don't we? I think it was from Plenty of Fish that showed that the age that men are most attracted to, regardless of their age, tends to be about 23 in women. So you've got a guy who's 18 and he likes 23-year-olds, and then you've got a guy who's 55 and he likes 23-year-olds. So, really, is Leo just doing what actually most guys would do if they had unfettered access?
Exactly. Right. Thank you for bringing that up, because that comes back to really the main subject that I want to talk about today, is because when Andrew Tate gets into lots of trouble, Fresh and Fit get into lots of trouble. Kevin Samuels got into lots of trouble for saying that men, like high value men, should cheat. Now, whether that's verbatim or whatever, the idea or the popular
it's not even that. They didn't say that they should cheat. They say that high value men don't cheat. They just explore their options.
Right. Exactly. And I'm in case anybody doesn't know, next Friday I will be on the Mike Sartain show down in Vegas, and I think Justin Waller has been on his show like at least twice, maybe 3 times now. And during one of those interviews between Mike and Justin, Justin was saying something like to the fact, like, if you had the options, if you had all these beautiful women who were available to you option wise, would you not cheat? Like he said, if you had a button and you could get away with it, no one would know the difference if you not, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? If no one would ever know, and you could press a button, you could have like that sexual option. He said, he's saying all men would do it. Like all men would cheat given the correct amount of options. And again, it kind of comes back to the whole thing about like the difference between somebody, say like Leonardo DiCaprio and Keanu Reeves. So is Keanu Reeves doing it right, or is Leonardo DiCaprio doing it right? Because those are two kind of conflicting mating strategies that are available, at least, to high value men. Keanu Reeves is arguably a high value dude, and certainly Leonardo DiCaprio is a high value dude, but they choose different lifestyles. So who's getting it right?
Well, there's this sort of idea that, what can Leo possibly have in common with these young women, right? And,
Right.
He's too immature to handle a mature woman, and whereas Keanu is handling a mature woman, right? He's got a woman of, she's older than him, isn't she? So from the sort of mainstream perspective, Keanu is doing it right. But I disagree with that fundamentally, because I don't believe a relationship is predicated on the ages of the people involved. And I don't think that, just because I saw the same TV shows when I was a kid as my girlfriend, that's a good basis for a relationship. People will say, well, what have you got in common? Well, quite frankly, I don't, if all that we've got in common are these superficial sort of cultural touchstones and memories of nonsense from the 1980s or whatever, then I'm not interested in that. Actually, attraction is created in difference, isn't it? In polarity. And actually, one polarity is age. She's younger, you're older, right? So she's got fresh perspective. She's got new insight. She's got new stuff she can bring to the party. You've got experience. You've got different things you can bring to the party. I think you can create a great relationship on that. And anyway, it's not having things in common that forms the basis of relationship. It's the vibe between the two of you. It's the interplay between the two of you, in my view. Okay. So I think that this premise that Keanu is doing it right because he's dating an age-appropriate woman. What does age-appropriate even mean, right? As long as we're talking about legal adults here.
Makes women feel better.
Precisely. But I mean, it's about the interplay between the two people. And age is if anything, an age difference actually adds to that.
When I get that all the time. It's like, what could you ever talk? What could you ever talk about with the younger person? Like politics, science.
Well, what do you
music, movies, like books? Yeah. Like, what wouldn't you talk about them with? Yeah. One nice thing is like they have a lot less baggage to have to sort through. That's nice.
Yeah. There's advantages and disadvantages, but like we're also talking about like presenting this put this like this. We're also talking about presenting this from the presumption that a long-term monogamy is what, actually both, but like certainly is what Leonardo should be after. He should be.
When asking who's right, who's doing it right, it really comes down to who's happy, who's living, their center point of origin, and who's doing it the way they want to do it. If that's really what Keanu wants to do, and that's where he's happy, and that's what he likes, then that's good for him. But I think this all makes women really nervous when guys realize that they could choose to do either, that they could consciously make that decision to live a life more like Keanu, or they could choose to live a life more like Leo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me see if I can find these pictures for you. This is his new chick. What's her name? Her name is Baragova. What the heck's her? Forget her first name here. Camilla. No, that's the other girl. You see, I'll just throw this on screen real quick. It's easier just to do it this way. But so this is the new chick that he's with. Now, here's the other thing: does he break up with the previous girlfriend because he can get with this chick right here?
What were the average relationship lengths of those relationships too?
About 4 or 5 years, depending on the chick. Like this is like that.
Maybe it has more to do with the length of the relationship than it has to do with the age.
Yeah,
Maria likes to date a certain age group.
I think that's a fair point, John. Giving Leo the benefit of the doubt here. People are always saying, "Oh yeah, she's turned 25, so he dumped her." But actually, they've been together for 3 or 4 years, which is kind of often the sort of natural lifespan for many relationships. Particularly if, and here's the other thing, right? We don't know. As far as I'm aware, we don't know.
Maybe he's seriously vetting.
Well, he might be seriously vetting, or we don't know if he wants kids or not. Because maybe he's just said, "Listen, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have a family." And then at that point, at some point, you're going to go your separate ways anyway. even if he's Leonardo DiCaprio, because she's going to want, if she wants something different, she's not even going to
But
say.
isn't it kind of funny though? Like he still caps it to like the one girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. He's not doing concurrent girlfriends.
He's not like Dan Blazarian with like 13 girls coming with him on the yacht. He just has the one.
Mm-hmm. He's not spinning plates. He could, but he's not spinning plates per se.
He's a serial monogamist.
Mm-hmm.
Or not getting married.
As far as we know.
Yeah. Yeah. In all actuality, all these guys could really be gay, and this all this stuff.
Yeah. Will Smith.
All just Hollywood mirrors, smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think he cheats, Leo? See, okay. Who do you think will cheat first, Keanu Reeves or Leonardo DiCaprio?
Wow. I mean,
knowing what we know about, and again, I hate to turn this into TMZ, but knowing what we know about like both of these guys and their characters, who's going to cheat first, given the opportunity?
Well, probably Keanu.
Probably Keanu.
I think Keanu.
Really, you think Keanu? Because I was going to say probably.
No, Leo. Because I think Keanu's kind of emo.
But Leo, maybe Leo doesn't need to cheat because he keeps it going for just long enough, and then he moves on to the next one. So he's getting a sense of variety. I mean, he's enjoying what he's actually doing. Really, is he's enjoying the honeymoon period with all of these women, isn't he? He's enjoying the snuggles. He's enjoying the hanging out, going to Saint-Tropez, doing whatever, having amazing sex, blah, blah, blah. And then before it gets into the really, you're getting into the heavy duty stuff after 4 or 5 years, he cuts and runs. So he's getting the best of both worlds. He's getting the relationship sense, but he's also getting the fun and the novelty.
Is he? Would you say that he is Leonardo DiCaprio? Would you say that he is an example of guys licking the ice cream? Do you know what I mean by what that metaphor means? It's and I hate to even bring this up, but this is like it was from what Hafiz from the Roommates was saying. This he says it's like guys go into the ice cream store and there's all these flavors, and it's like this. There's one guy who can go in. He's got complete carte blanche in the ice cream store, and he can go and he can lick every flavor of ice cream and sort of like ruin each one of those little sort of gallon jugs of ice cream, whatever that flavor happens to be, so that when other guys come in, finally get their chance to come into the ice cream store, it's already been licked and they've already been sampled, and it's somebody's already tasted. So essentially what he's trying to make, it's a bad metaphor, but he's trying to make this metaphor for make a case that guys who are high value dudes like Leonardo are licking the ice cream. They're the ones that are ruining those girls. Like all the girls in this list right here, he's licked the ice cream of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then now pretty soon 9 women who are between the ages of 20 and 25 years old. Which, of course, then does that like scar them for life? Does that ruin them? Troy, you've probably heard this before in game terms. There used to be a push back in the old days of seduction to leave them better than you found them, right? Ethical gaming and not to screw over the good ones or whatever. I don't know how you're supposed to make that determination. It's like, oh, well, she's a skank, so I'm not going to worry about it. Oh, but she's a good girl, so I'm going to try to leave her better than I found her.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, he might be leaving them worse than he found them. I mean, we don't know the circumstances that he's breaking up with these women. I mean, it might be like John, we were just sort of saying, it might be it kind of comes to a natural end and they end amicably and whatever, right? So there's a lot of assumptions here. But I mean, look, it's a cruel world. I mean, it might be that he's savagely dumping these women and they're going to be alpha widowed and ruined for life. Well, guess what? This is how the world is, and we're all sitting here on, not us, but people are all sitting on the internet complaining about it and going, oh, it's so unfair. It's so unfair because he's acting like this. And, women are complaining because he's not dating older women, and guys are complaining because he's spoiling it for future partners that these women might have. Well, this is the animal kingdom. This is just how it is. Suck it up. What can you do? He's an apex alpha who's acting as an apex alpha can if he can get away with it.
Right. I was going to say here, let me see if I can zoom in and get this girl's name. The first girl that's on this list is Giselle Bundchen or whatever her name is. Now, that was back in 99 through 04. Imagine this. Imagine you meet this girl. She's a beautiful girl. Her name is Giselle. And the guy that is sort of like her alpha widow, the guy that is the one that she can't kind of get over, you want to marry her. You've had a pretty good dating life with her and everything else. And she seems like she'd be a really good fit with you, but she simply can't get over that one guy named Leo. Who and see, I think that when you see stuff like this, and we see this pattern right here, I think it's real easy to kind of, especially for guys who kind of want to broadcast this idea of one man, one woman, and it should be about monogamy, and it's this tradcon, idealized state between men and women, and it's these savage, horrible players like Leo who are ruining women for them when they get to be 30 some odd years old, and those women are finally in their epiphany phase, and they're like, oh, I've had my journey of self-discovery with Leonardo DiCaprio, and and now I'm ready to settle down finally. But Leo's the one that was in, like, the one that really kind of like was the significant alpha impact in her life. And I think what happens is when you see guys who are, especially guys who are making a living off of like this sort of material, they look at this and they go, yeah, of course, look, this is what these horrible players are doing. And I think the idea is like they suffer from the same apex fallacy that women do. Like they look at an apex alpha, as you said, like Leonardo here, and they go, well, that's what's happening. It's hookup culture. That's why my girlfriend, I would have a perfect marriage. I would have a great time with this girl. She would do anything for me. I wouldn't have to jump through these hoops. She would trust me more if she hadn't had that experience with Leonardo way back in '99.
Yeah.
Well,
if everybody else would have acted differently, my life would have been better.
Well, I think
these guys would never have got near to her anyway, would they? I mean, let's be real. I mean, it's a stupid analogy. But look, I mean, we've got to accept life on life's terms, all right? I mean, a guy like Leo who has unlimited access to unlimited sexuality and apparently doesn't feel sort of straitened by the constraints of society and what people think he should be doing. This is how he's going to act. I mean, this is just life. We can't. There's no point complaining about it. We need to find ways to work on ourselves, to self-improve, and to improve our own access. We can't worry about what this dude over here is doing. It's just not productive.
Right. I think one of the biggest copes that a lot of guys, especially in a traditional conservative kind of mindset right now, I see a lot of like traditional conservatives, and not even necessarily tradcons, but like that same kind of mentality sort of seeping in to when the red pill goes mainstream, it's almost unavoidable that like you're going to get that element that's going to say, well, relationships would be so much better if men would just be better. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, men need to stop licking that ice cream. Like, all these players, all this hookup culture, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think what these guys really understand is that first of all, hookup culture only works one way. It's with the hot alpha and the foam cannon party and women. Not those guys. It works for the top, maybe 10% of guys. And I mean that like, conservatively here. For the top 10% of guys might be able to do that. And of that top 10% of guys, how many of them are really going to go, I'm going to be like Leo? How many of them want to be more like Keanu? How many of them really want to have something that's more of like a monogamous, one-on-one? Because technically you're right. I mean, Leo's doing that. He has a girlfriend. I mean, supposedly, anyways, we don't know that he's not cheating, but we can track his long-term girlfriends over the course of like since he was 24 years old to where he's, I don't know, what is he, 47 right now? So we can track that, and I think what happens is
he's not like double digits even, like it's not
like as far as we know, he's
not
not
like the smash canned assholes. He's
right. Yeah,
he couldn't even make it
3,000 lay count.
He couldn't even make it as a YouTube. He couldn't even make it as a YouTube dating coach, man. I mean, with that pathetic lay count. Yeah.
So his lay count is 8. What? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now nine chicks, as far as we know. Well,
what a beta male.
What a beta male. Yeah.
Doesn't he know he's Leonardo DiCaprio?
He needs to practice semen retention
maybe that's it. Maybe he needs to be practicing semen retention.
I think as Mr. Ryan Stone said, or I paraphrase him, but words to the effect of, if it takes you 1,500 women to figure out women, then you've got bigger problems than learning how to get laid.
Yeah. I mean, technically, according to a certain fat kid in Brazil, Leonardo DiCaprio is an abject failure when it comes to women.
Well,
Right?
he's clearly, yeah. I mean, he hasn't even got the first iota of understanding of women, has he? At 9.
Hell, I'm a champion among men. If that's if that's my competition right there, hell, probably all of us are, right? But that's the thing, is I keep saying, is like, it's not about like, the metric of game should not be measured by your leg count, your notch count. And I know when I was on it, I did this very foolish debate with Ruslan on Adam Sosnick's show. And I mean, I did really well on that debate. But the thing is like, at one point, Ruslan's trying to nail me down, going, hey, how come you are married and you promote a lifestyle that is like spinning plates and not, dating non-exclusively and fucking anything on 2 legs to increase men's notch count? Because we already know that men who have high notch counts, it ruins their lives and it ruins women's lives and everything else. And I'm like, dude, that's not why I talk about that. That's not why I promote non-exclusive dating, to ruin people's lives. It's to educate men. That's why. And so they want to try to make it a black and white sort of situation. But it comes down to the idea that notch count should be the metric. That's the purpose. That like whatever the red pill's about or whatever. Again, it's not a prescription, it is a praxeology. What are best practices? Well, in my estimation, and probably your estimation as well, it's better to be able to spin plates and date non-exclusively until you can get to a point where you can transition out of that into a monogamous relationship. And if you read my first freaking book, you would understand that, because the last of the 6 chapters about plate theory is transitioning to monogamy. So
yeah,
it's just confident ignorance at that point.
Yeah.
Let me get to some of these super chats, because we're good. I got 10 of them. I usually try to get after 10. Lord Loco says Jedediah really came differently the second time. Yeah, I did. If you don't know, I did a one-on-one with Jedediah via Zoom. I wasn't actually in studio, but it was actually, I think this was probably one of the best. I know, back and forth. I don't want to say it wasn't a debate, but it was just an interview tandem show that I did with her. It was really good. What do you think happened? Well, first of all, I was remote. I think there's a different dynamic when you're face to face with somebody and you're talking about these things via, versus being remote. Underestimated? You do think she underestimated me? No, but I think I will give Jedediah her props. She's actually doing her homework finally. One of the things one of my points of contention with her on my first interview, which was back in June, I think, or July, was that she just simply didn't have the depth of knowledge that she needed to really make to form an educated opinion about any of this stuff. But I think that Andrew Tate's situation sort of woke her up to that. And now she's kind of getting into it a little bit more in depth. And so that's why we were able to have a better conversation as a result of that. Let's see. Here we go. King Nick, I'm surprised the internet is going crazy over Leo's under 25 rule. Is it a rule? Do you think he has a rule? I'm just wondering, is it something that he just naturally does? Or does he go, oh, time's up. It's your 25th birthday. You're out of here.
Well, I mean, it sounds like all his relationships are 3 to 4 years long. And if he's dating 20, 21-year-olds all the time, like, it kind of makes sense that, he might fall into that category of the relationship just expiring at that time.
Yeah. Leo's, okay, compared to literally 10 years ago when it was initially mentioned as a harmless internet meme, it must be a TikTok Gen Z revelation. Yeah, but here's the thing, it's not, because as I was saying before, it was, well, let me come back to that. I think people want to say it's a rule. Like, and if anybody can find me this video, or if anybody can find me an interview about this, has Leo ever been, like, in any interview, has he ever been questioned about this? Is there any video?
Not to my knowledge, I've never heard.
Do you have a rule of like breaking up with a girl at 25? Like, has anybody ever confronted him about that?
The other thing to say to that comment is Leo is now, if it was 10 years ago, Leo's now 10 years older. And obviously that adds like weight to this, because it's, oh my God, he's in his 40s. Imagine when he's in his 50s, if he's still doing it. So
when he was 35, nobody said shit about him dumping the 25-year-old girl.
Well, I think this adds like a huge fear into a lot of women. If guys wake up to the idea that, oh, well, shit's not working out, I can just start over with somebody younger in the same age group. It's gonna have to change a lot of women's behavior. Be a lot nicer as they're older.
Yeah. Well, and I also think, again, it kind of comes back to the age difference thing, because women, I think on some very in like animal level, like on a visceral level, like a hindbrain, lizard brain level, understand that their sexual market value and their sexual agency decays with time. It is perishable. The joke, of course, I had Andrew Tate actually sent me this video this morning. I still text him, but he sent me this video of me actually on Adam Sosnick's show back in February, where I'm confronting that Dr. Rachel girl that was on there, and I said, the joke, of course, is that they call the store Forever 21, not Forever 41. And there's a reason for that, because women want to, all the rest of their lives, once they get past that point, they want to get back to being 21 once again. Why? Because that's when women had the most power and the most agency and the most attention and the options that they possibly could have in their lives. And every year after that, those options and that agency decays a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. It's not about your value as a person. It's not about personal worth. It's about your sexual market value. And women have, I've actually been writing essays about this recently. That conflation between sexual market value and personal worth is something that I think is very sort of intrinsic and unique to women right now, because their agency and their power and their options and their opportunities that were presented to them when they were at the peak of their sexual market value is what sort of builds that ego and builds personal worth inside of that woman. And that's why when they see someone like Keanu Reeves get with an age-appropriate woman, they love him that much more, because it confirms or reaffirms anyways what they think should happen, right? A high-value man should want to get with a woman who is a mature woman just like her and have that conversation and blah, blah, blah. And, she looks like his mom, seriously. But he could, and everyone knows that the only reason this is remarkable, everybody knows that Keanu Reeves could be getting with the 25-year-olds that Leo is getting with as well. But he chooses to get with this woman who could be his mom. But then you've got Leo, who is the counterbalance to that, and they hate him because that's what he chooses to do, or that's been his pattern, over the course of really decades. So that is a reminder of the fact that their sexual market value decays, and they better cash in their chips as soon as they can. And I think what happens is they understand sort of, I guess it would be what is it? It's opportunity loss. Or opportunity cost. So when a woman is at, like, say, 22, between those ages, 20 and 25, where is the prime demographic where Leo is, choosing these women from, they're essentially investing that sexual agency and that power and that sexuality and those options and that maneuverability and all that sexual capital she has during those years into Leo, who's just going to dump her when she gets to 25. And lick the ice cream and move on to the next one, right? And so I think that's what grates on women the most, is because he essentially steals that, in their estimation, steals that capital away from them in their most valuable years, and then moves on to the next one. And now the chick is 25. Now she's 26. Now she's 27, and she's still pining for the alpha widow who is now Leonardo DiCaprio. Let me go into this one here. 41 years old of Chic Daddy. 41 years old male with BPD. Thanks to people like you, have become attractive to women. Any advice on focusing on career over women? Love and sex is focus more than paying for my future. Just divorced. Need discipline. Thanks. Well, what are you most deficient in? I think that's probably the first thing that guys need. I love it when guys give me these questions. It's like, what single thing should I focus on? Yeah. Mostly, if you're
secret pill.
If you're an average American dude, get your fat ass in the gym. I feel pretty confident in saying
first step for everybody.
You're probably overweight.
First step for everybody is usually fitness. Start working out. Start lifting something.
Mm-hmm. And
you're muted, Troy.
Unmute yourself, Troy.
The underlying assumption in that question is almost a humble brag, because it's almost like he's saying, oh man, you've made me so attractive and now I'm getting so many women, and how do I focus on my career instead? Because, and it's a bit like, if you want to focus on your career, focus on your career. I mean, there's not it's not like rocket science. You've just got to
Don't
say,
need my permission.
yeah, exactly.
Scheduling works pretty good. I like scheduling. It works pretty good.
Yeah,
You can,
make a calendar.
you can
Yeah,
have a designated date night, designated friend night, and then work scheduled all the rest of the time.
Actually, that's not bad advice. Here's advice. Here's a prescription for you. Go get an app that helps you manage your time.
You can even like
daily planner.
They have virtual assistants. You can you can get a person to call you and schedule things, and you can get a person to help.
Logistics. Yeah, pretty much. Kyle 2020 says hate for Leo is fueled by sheer jealousy with both sexes. You think it's jealousy? I think so. Do you think that's why people have a problem with Leo?
A lot of guys.
Jealousy is one thing. Envy. Are they envious of him?
I think guys who can't get the younger girls, absolutely.
Do you think that women are? Well, I actually think it's different. I mean, envy might be something that guys like want to like point a finger at Leo for. For women, I think it's really sort of opportunity cost for them. And then again, you got to remember that women are sort of all attached to the hive mind, the sisterhood uber alles. So when women see another woman getting dumped between the ages of 20 and 25, they can't help but sort of like vicariously, like empathetically put themselves into that position. And that's why they hate on them. And that's why they, make a big deal. That's why the graph exists in the first place, right? The women who can't do what he does, and men, because he's taking chicks that wouldn't look their way to begin with. He's taking our girls. They're taking our jobs. I got that one. I actually got that reference. I'm in my 50s. Walt Mosher. I'm in my 50s, had friends with benefits with 20s women all my life. Key is keep it stealth, no fingerprints on social media. And yes, helping them out financially makes it easier. That's what 401ks are for. When you cash out your 401ks for your fuck buddies.
A little bit of sugar always helps.
Yeah, I tell you, and if that's the dude in his AV there, it's like, some guys are okay with transactional relationships. Let's just say sugaring, whatever. Just don't believe that. Don't believe that the act is actually love.
The stripper does not love you.
Yeah, stripper doesn't love you. She might be a very good actress, and you're you think about it. You're paying for the actress. You're paying for the performance. You're not paying for the actual, like the authenticness of it. You're just paying for the performance. Modana is 64 and just split from her boyfriend, her 28-year-old boyfriend. She was praised. The "you go girl" narrative, double standard. Anyone? Yeah, that's a good parallel there. Yeah. Of course, nobody really cares about Madonna because even women who liked her back in the 80s understand she's pretty much washed out. Okay, so it's like, do they actually think at 64 years old she's going to go and be like, okay, I'm going to get a guy who's 28 Why is the 28-year-old with a 64-year-old in the first place? What's the value added situation between Madonna and the 28-year-old guy? Lord Loco, is this shift of the Overton window via the sisterhood uber alles a conscious or subconscious action? The worldwide hive effect is insane. I kind of get what you're talking about here in respect to, like, say, gynocentrism, but I would say that is it in
different places though, like Troy was saying, the age difference isn't as big a deal in other parts of the world than here.
Is it malice? Is it intent and malice and intent, or is it just something that you're going to do sort of subconsciously? Because if you look at the difference between Keanu Reeves and Leonardo DiCaprio, that's a conscious choice, at least on the part of Keanu. And it kind of relates to something I've talked about in the past, which is if the vast majority of beta male guys can convince the top 20% of guys and even the top 4.5% of guys to believe that monogamy and marriage and one man, one woman is the innate, natural, godly way of forming a relationship. If they can do that, what happens is the guys who could be a Leonardo DiCaprio then sort of limit themselves. They police themselves So you, on one hand, you've got Keanu Reeves. On the other hand, you've got Leonardo DiCaprio, who is not policing himself, but he is, in a way, he's kind of playing by those rules because he's still a serial monogamist.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
Mm.
But that's how he presents. That's all I got to go with. Sorry, guys. Maybe he's like nailing chicks every weekend. But you've got Keanu Reeves, who has decided that, okay, I'm going to get with an age-appropriate woman, and I'm a one-man, one-woman kind of guy. Is he the guy who beta males have convinced, like, hey, we know you're high value, but you got to play by our rules so that everybody gets a turn, everybody gets a chick, you know? Let me see. What's this next one? Damn. It's empowerment to Jada, who is married, and shame to single Leonardo DiCaprio. You can't shame women for kinks, but you can, but shame men for following their natural instinct. Yes, and that will always be the case in a gynocentric social order. Men exercising options is illegal. For women, it's being prudent.
Necessary.
It's necessary. It's being prudent.
Necessary for survival.
There's an element. Sometimes I've seen the argument put that the older guy, you know, the DiCaprio character, there's a power dynamic at play, right? And it's disadvantageous to the woman because the women are younger, and Leonardo is a movie star, and he's older, and he's richer, and all of this. And
he's stealing her cap. He's stealing her magic mojo.
That's the Arcade Fire singer was being accused of, because there's a power dynamic.
Is the power dynamic faulty? But that sort of, it's this sort of sense of women having no power and no agency. I mean, women are also extremely powerful in their own way. I mean, women's beauty.
They don't want responsibility.
Well, yes. It's like, are we saying then that women are? Well, we are saying that's what they're saying is that the woman is whiter than white. The woman will never be manipulative. She's always going to be the innocent, you know, victim of the scheming strategies of this older guy. Whereas actually, you know, I mean, what we saw from the Johnny Depp case, you know, and that was a younger woman. Albeit not as young as what we're talking about here, but you know, just because she's a woman and B younger doesn't mean that she is not capable of manipulation herself. She's not some guileless like child. She's a grown woman, right? You know, and I think that it's this sort of infantilization of women, which is a little bit from people who are ostensibly feminists, that I think is disturbing here. Really, I mean, like you know, just because a woman is 22 years old. And Leo's 40, whatever the hell he is, you know. I mean, she has her own power. You know, she has power over him in the sense of her physicality, in the sense of her sexuality, and maybe in other ways as well. And it's just this disingenuous narrative that gets put about that I think is very damaging.
She has the power of the police and media and everything too. If he acts up, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I've never heard any of his ex-girlfriends say anything negative about him.
It's disingenuous. It's a very like convenient thing to say because it's very hard to disprove. It's like, oh yeah, but the power dynamic might be but we don't know the dynamic within these relationships because we're not part of them, you know.
Let me continue on a little bit here because it's going to segue into the next topic that I want to talk about here. Is so. You've got Leonardo who can have options with younger women. He can exploit.
Leo's an exceptional case because he's not just exploring options; he's exploring options with 9s and 10s, like some of the best the world has to offer.
But is he okay? To my knowledge, he's never been married. So is he doing it right? Because a lot of guys will say, well, he doesn't have kids. I heard this the other day when people were like running, not Tristan so much, but Andrew Tate up the flagpole because Andrew's like 36 now. I don't forget how old he is, but and has no family and no kids. And I know actually behind the scenes, I know what's going on, but the impression that people have is that if he's not playing by the rules that have been established, such as to be a successful guy, to be a real alpha, to be a real top G, you got to have at least 2 kids by the time you're his age, and you got to be married, and you got to be go to church on Sundays, and you've got to be a leader of industry, and you've got to be a leader amongst men, and that's what makes you a real alpha. And I'm thinking that more and more throughout as we get more into the, as Aaron Clary would put it, the post-marriage age, I think that that's going to be tested and challenged that much more. So when we look at Andrew Tate versus, say, a guy like Leonardo DiCaprio, Leonardo DiCaprio still has one up on Andrew Tate because at least Leonardo has one girlfriend at a time, but a guy like Tate would be, you know,
one consistent girlfriend for a while, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Who?
Andrew Tate, hasn't he had a girlfriend for a while?
Your guess is as good as mine, but the image that is, well, put it this way: the popular image of him, like his worst critics, think that he lives this Playboy lifestyle. Maybe he does, for all we know, but he lives this Playboy lifestyle. The other thing I'm glad you brought this up too, John, is like if you've got a guy like Justin Waller will say this as well. It's like you have one main chick, but you have the option to go out and like nail Strange anytime you want to, but then you're coming back to the one girl. And I've had these conversations both with Justin and with other people as well, where it's like, well, why do you want the main girl in the first place? And I think that's what rubs women the wrong way when guys say, well, a high value man should be able to cheat. Well, if you're going to cheat, or if you should be able to cheat, that implies that you've already got one main that you're cheating on, and you're not just spinning plates. So, for instance, Leonardo DiCaprio with his, staggering his girlfriends at, every 5 years or 4 years, whatever it is if he's not cheating, does that make him better than a guy who has a main and he's going out and he's cheating on those girls?
I mean, how does it make him only a sort of an ethical context if we want to abide by that framework? I mean, I don't really know. I wouldn't say that. I mean, so what is the criticism of Andrew Tate? Because he doesn't, as far as the public knows, he doesn't have a main. That he's thought of as being worse than Leo because what? Because people think he can't get a main, or what?
I think the criticism, anyways, is that a guy like Leonardo. Like, so here's the order of degrees, right? You got Keanu Reeves, who's doing it right? He's got fame. He could be banging Strange, and he has the options because he's Keanu Reeves. He chooses to get with the girl that he's with, right? Then you have Leonardo DiCaprio, who is not married, and at the very least, he's not trying to say, "Hey, I'm trying to get married. I'm not trying to live this lifestyle that I think other people want me to live, but I am at least playing partially by the rules by only getting one girl at a time." And then you've got next down, you've got like, say, the Justin Wallers and the Andrew Tates, perceptually anyways, where they've got a main and they're cheating on that main because they're high value men and they deserve to exercise their options. And then I would say probably below that is the guy who is just simply spinning plates like indefinitely.
Well, I mean, I think it comes back to your line, Rollo, which is infinite access to infinite sexuality or infinite sexual options, really. I mean, what does the guy actually really want? And probably, in many cases, actually, the guy wants access to as much variety as possible is the truth of the matter. Well, actually, no, that's not strictly true. They probably want two things. They probably do want a main because we all like the security of having, we all like the security of the main. We all like the snuggles. We all like watching the Netflix and all that kind of stuff. And then we want variety at the same time. So if a guy like perceptually, like you said, Jay Waller or the Tates, I mean, those guys are winning, really. Now Leo could be doing the same thing. And as far as we know, he is doing the same thing. We don't know for sure. But he's made a conscious choice to go sort of semi-monogamous or like monogamous,
soft monogamy
with these different women. That's a choice that he's made. But really, I would say the guys like Tate and Waller, perceptually, obviously maybe things are different behind the scenes, but the perception of those guys is actually the win. Really, it's just most guys are too pussified to admit that that's actually what they'd really want to do.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been watching. How can you miss them? I've been watching John MLD's shorts, and one of them recently he was talking about the biggest problem with the red pill right now is that it promotes this, endless womanizing. First of all, that's horseshit, and then second of all, it's like, well, why would that even be a point of contention? Even if it were true, why would that be a point of contention? Why is that a problem in the red pill? to promote a lifestyle of endless womanizing, or however you want it, like endlessly spinning plates. Like you're just going to keep spinning plates until you can't do it anymore, or until you're like Leonardo DiCaprio and you go, okay, now I just want to get with one chick. First of all, I don't think that the Manosphere does that. I don't think that the Red Pill even promotes pretty much anything like that, because it's kind of like most guys can't realize that. Most guys don't get into learning game or understanding the Red Pill because they want to have this to increase their notch count. I think that's a huge misperception of this space, because it's been my experience over the last 20 some odd years now that when guys start to learn game, even as far back as the Mystery Method days, the guys who wanted to learn game so that they could get the girls, they didn't do it because they wanted to become some incorrigible player and lick every flavor of the ice cream. They did it to get one girl, just to get that one girl, because they were talking about guys who are virgins until their 30s. We're talking about guys who have never had any kind of options or any kind of sexual variety whatsoever beyond pornography, perhaps. And then you're talking about guys who really just want that dream girl. They want that monogamy, and so they see that as a means to the end.
Well, they do, but is that because that's still all they think they can get? For them, they think even just the fantasy of getting that dream girl is so remote.
I don't think that
they can't even entertain the possibility of spinning plates perpetually. Like, just before you come in, Paul, I agree with what Rollo just said. I don't think any of us is promoting anything. Even me, I'm not promoting. Oh,
right, you just want people to get whatever they want. I understand.
Be a playboy until you're 70. But what I would say is, I think that it's absolutely possible. I think that guys can absolutely continue to date.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with that.
And I think the reason that more guys don't do it is partly because they
don't think they can. Scarcity.
They don't think they can. We all do like a bit of security as well. We all do like the oxytocin of a relationship, and then the woman will take steps to make sure that you don't go and spread your seed any further. So then that happens. People get married and they leave the game. But also they just don't think it's possible. But actually, in 2022, going into 2023, it's absolutely possible to be a perpetual bachelor. Even an ordinary guy who isn't a world famous movie star can live a DiCaprio-esque lifestyle if he wants to, and if he knows what he's doing. So it's definitely possible. It's down to whether you want it, viewer, and whether you're honest with yourself about what you actually want versus what you think you should want.
I do think, though, like, there comes a point, because there's guys that I've worked with, and there's guys I'm sure that you've worked with, Troy, too, who you get them really good at, game, seduction, pickup, and they have that abundance. They can get girls, and then they're posed with a new problem, which is, well, I want to get better girls. I want to have better relationships. There's a lot of guys that want, and they go into, and maybe if it's not straight monogamy, maybe it's some version of that, but they want that girl, even though they've sort of, had a bunch of different options, a bunch of different girls underneath them. You see that in the pickup community too, and it's like a lot of guys or pickup guys end up in relationships, right? They want that girl that they is kind of their, they have a sense of security with, if you could call it that, you know what I mean? That they have more of a deeper relationship with. I mean, I think there's a desire for that somewhere innately within us. Yeah. And I think maybe this is why Leonardo DiCaprio, for example, is actually getting in relationships. Those just happen to fizzle out by the time the girl hits 25, which is comical. But you know what I mean? It's like, he's not just like, he could be in no relationship, right? And then just have a bunch of girls. Yeah. But he seems to be getting into a relationship with somebody, but for whatever reason, we don't know. We could joke and say it's because of her age, but we really don't know why. Because I can relate to this myself. You get into it, and like a few years later, it just doesn't work anymore. And then you're done, and then you end up into it with a girl of the same age or younger than your previous one, and then it's like you keep repeating. You're like, wait a second here, what's going on? So it may not even be intentional. We don't know.
Well, when you put it like that, Paul, that's pretty much just sums up my dating life over the last few years. To be honest, and I'm not. I didn't star in Titanic, as surprising as people might find that. But yeah, I think a more charitable view of DiCaprio's.
But you were in Spectre, and you were in what's that?
Yeah.
What was the other one?
But a more charitable view like you said, is maybe these things are just fizzling out. You know, he's with these women for a few years. Relationships do, 3-4 years, kind of standard sort of time, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Doesn't want to weigh himself down in children and marriage. He's fully vetting these women, and maybe he's just deciding, you know what, there's too much complication going on. I'm just gonna try again.
Well, right. Well, in these girls he's getting, I've dated these girls before too. Maybe not his girls, okay, but girls who are like industry girls. You know what I mean? Like they're out there, they're modeling, they're doing this, they're doing that, and they're really putting themselves out.
Girls.
Yeah, it's just they're not really minded necessarily towards really long-term success. They don't necessarily have the skills for that, and you end up after having a good time with them and some, I don't know, just, you start to get into like long-term plans and you realize, well, gee, this person is still like this, or they're still superficially looking outward for other things. They're still doing, they're not like submissively settling in like you might think. That this is just my experience. So it's just like fucking talk about me now. But it's like they're not submissively settling in like you would want, and it ends up being more trouble than it's worth. And you end up on to a next thing. And it's like you're not trying to cycle through relationships, but some of these women are not really capable of lasting for more than a couple of years without creating a lot of problems for their guy. They're not submissive enough. They're not surrendered to that relationship and to that person. So, I mean, for in the beginning, I'm sure it's, Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, wow, I bagged this high value guy. But then 2 or 3 years later, she's probably treating him like fucking,
starts complaining about stuff, starts making demands.
Right.
Yeah,
she gets
genuine desire, starts dipping a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
I've heard some people say that like they're like some women anyways. I've read like comments on threads about this where women will say, well, at least he's like it's like catch and release. At least he's like releasing them like at 24, 25 years old and back into the ocean. So that
he's a good fisherman.
Yes. Yeah. It's like he's like playing catch and release at this point. So
so it's not just the guys who are breaking up with the younger girls and dating a new younger girl.
Right.
The Dane Cook that I mentioned earlier, like he is engaged. Like he's planning on marrying his 23-year-old. He's 50, I think, and she's 23 or something.
Yeah.
And they're getting married, but people are still shitting a cow.
Yep. Oh, hang on.
The champ is here.
I gotta put that up there. I haven't been able to do that in a while. How you go?
Are you in Turkey too?
Are you in Turkey? Where are you right now?
Post Turkey.
Post Turkey. Oh.
Poster.
He's wearing the hat too. So
yeah, MLD. What happens in Turkey?
I remember. I saw Myron like almost immediately after he had his hair replacement surgery. And he was like, man, he was taking like pain pills and everything. Because it was like, I guess that it was pretty painful.
Not pain pills. They got like these black eyes. These like pseudo black eyes. They're just not.
Yeah. Same thing.
What happens in Istanbul stays in Istanbul.
Not gonna lie, man. It does look better once you like Myron is like has a whole different look after that.
Me and Troy were riding the Midnight Express.
It was an awesome place, wasn't it, John? I really, really liked it. I'm definitely up for going back, man.
It was a blast. Troy got to meet the legendary Miss MLD.
I did.
Him and James Tusk got to hang out. It was awesome, man.
Dude.
I thought Turkey was going to be a shithole, like a desert shithole. I really did.
Oh no, Turkey's
nice, great. Yeah,
went there. It's gorgeous. I called up this one little yacht place, and I rented the yacht, and then the guy called me up, and he's like, "Did you just rent the yacht?" Is it did you make a mistake? And
he wasn't used to top G's. He wasn't used to top G's like John.
And then me, Troy, and Miss MLD, we cruised down the Bosphorus up the Asian side and the European side of Turkey. It was a good time.
That's cool, man. That's a good time.
John, I want to get your take, but before you do, hold that thought for a second because this will sort of lead into it here.
This is not the sort of thing that would be very popular to post about online. The fact that you use the mate value of a man as a proxy for the man's mate value himself, especially as he gets older, which is something that is like completely irreversible, right? There's nothing you can do about that. You can't lift your way out of being 53.
Yeah, absolutely. And like they've done a lot of studies that show that mate value or your sense of your own mate value is a direct proxy for self-esteem, particularly for men. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that. And a lot of women in their mate preferences engage in mate copying. So mate choice copying. So if one woman it's like fashion almost. If one woman endorses a guy, he suddenly becomes, oh, well, he must be all right. Someone vetted him. You know, the example I use there is, what's his name? Phil Davison or Pete Davison.
Yes.
He's suddenly able to pull every smoking hot woman in Hollywood, like all of a sudden, and it snowballs. And you might even notice, Chris, in your own life, that sometimes when you have a girlfriend, you seem to get a bit more attention. And I don't know, from other women, and I don't know whether it's because you're more relaxed and your guard is a bit more down, but some of it might be, oh yeah, someone has considered him high value enough. But so the commentator who put up about Leo, she actually made the opposite argument. And she said, oh, I find it so hot when a man is dating an older woman who is like very sophisticated, because it signals he's obviously smart. Whereas if he goes for the fertile young woman, it signals that he's not able to keep up with the intellectual life of the 40-year-old women.
I've got the tweet. I've got the tweet here. The whole DiCaprio thing reminds me one reason a guy might constantly choose much younger partners is because women his own age have higher standards. From an adult woman's point of view, when we see a man with a woman more or less his age or older, we know that guy is most likely great. Macron is probably the most extreme we know of. Every time I look at that guy, I'm thinking, oh my God, he must be fucking smart. If that woman who could have picked from a 40-year age range thinks that he's the partner. That could not be more backward. That literally could not be more backward. How are you going to try and tell me that a woman that's 53 is going to have higher standards than a woman that is slap bang in the middle of her fertile years?
Yeah, there's a little bit wrong, and I did retweet it to try and maybe spark a bit of debate. And the woman who wrote the tweet, Anna Gatt, I actually really admire most of her Twitter content, and she runs a really cool organization called the Inter-Intellect, which puts on kind of intellectual salon type gatherings. So I don't mean to like dunk on her take, and it is interesting on one level, and maybe there is some truth to it, but yeah, it's missing that piece of, you know, I feel like maybe saying to her, your intrasexual competition is showing. But you know, intrasexual competition, particularly for women, is very hidden even to themselves.
Yes.
So you can't let it show. You can't really. It has to be all subtle, which is interesting. So she might not even actually perceive it as such.
Yeah, I think that the younger women versus older women thing it's a difficult area to get into, right? Like, especially with the world of red pill at the moment, age is one of those things that gets weaponized by the guys that are talking in that red pill space and never gets used as a tactic that men should take on in order to open up their dating opportunities, which just blows my mind. What's up?
There you go. All right. So, all right, champ. You're on. What do you have to say about that?
Let me tell you about Turkish women.
Yeah. Cope, man. It's such mega cope. Women are just mad that they can't be young hoes forever in the West. That's basically it. That's pretty much. Like, okay, so in the last basically 2 weeks, I was hanging out with Paul in Miami, and we got to see what's going on over there. And then I came back to Tokyo, and then I went to Turkey, and I was hanging out with Troy. And dude, the thing is, one thing I picked there, like, you know, you call it the gynocentric social order, right? But I think it's not. I don't think it's that. From what I've observed is basically this. There is, in the West, basically what they have traded is they've traded culture and family in for endless consumerism and being this eternal single life. Like, men are not getting married. Women are not getting married. Nobody's having kids. So you have like this like perpetual singleness, and all this is doing is like people are just being used and abused by governments and corporations in the West to pull as much money and power out of the people. Like, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I was chatting with some of the people, and like, you know, the Saudis are the richest people in the world. They don't have to declare their wealth. Like, fuck Jeff Bezos, fuck Elon Musk. Like, the Saudis are pumping billions of dollars of oil out of the ground every single day. They are the richest people on the planet. They're the trillionaires. And all of these people are so focused around family. And the thing is, like, you look at this, like, look at the sexual liberation, look at the sexual liberation movement of women. It's left the whole, every country that's embraced it is, one, literally dying because the reproduction rate is below 2.0. And two, the populations are mentally ill, obese, and unhappy. Like that we have strayed away from the normal part of life, which is get together, have a family, and die. And so you're seeing every media outlet, everybody scrambling all jets, trying to protect like this cash cow that they have, which is endless consumerism, endless single lifestyle for women, because women are the ones that are the number one victims. I mean, you don't believe me? Look at all these fat people that are celebrities now. Lizzo, Megan Thee Stallion. You had She-Hulk twerking. You had fucking Tess Holiday, right? You have all this stuff, and everybody looking at it. It's cringe. The majority of the people don't like it, and everybody's trying to, like, all the establishments are trying to force this down our throats, but it's not natural. It's not normal. And people are miserable. And it's not working. So they will try to justify keeping this new psychotic way of living any way they can. They may even, theoretically speaking, not in America, but steal elections and force you to take experimental jabs.
Well, in the solution, though, really, is to get to a point where you just don't give a fuck. Like, I don't fucking care. John will tell you, I'm in Miami, hot girls here and there. Oh, she's a drunk bitch. Hey, fun hanging out. See you later. You don't care, dude, because you have tons of options. And for my ideal option, it's going to be someone who's very submissive and wants literally to be trained by me, because she knows that what's out there is absolute shit. And she doesn't want that. She doesn't want to be a part of it. She wants to be a part of something better than that. And she wants to turn to me for that. And guess what? I can do that if I want to. I can have that option. And she can be at any age I feel like. Like, you know, and it's not brag on me, but it's like, I don't care now. Like if somebody's an a-hole, I'm like, oh, well, fucking see you later. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care, but then
There's better things to do.
Hey, let me back up on what John just said with a few stats here. These are the average age of women getting married in 2021 in these countries. And if you go and you look at the average age of marriage in, like, say, Western European countries, you're looking at like an average of like 31, 32 years old right now. So, you know, this Western, you want to talk about gynocentric social order, it's getting imported across the globe right now. I mean, maybe slower in some countries and faster in others. That's number one. That's marriage rates. Here's divorce rates right here. So if you go and you look at the high, I mean, what's interesting to me is look at this. The age of first marriage in, say, like Russia and over in the sort of Eastern Bloc countries is much younger, but the divorce rates for those are much higher. So if you look at the intensity of, like, you know, 60, 70, I believe it's per 100 marriages. So that's like a 60 or 70% divorce rate in those countries. And then you look at like something like, what is this, Ireland over here? They're down at about 15% right there. But if you look at the average age of marriage for that country, it's 35. So what's happening here is a westernized, gynocentric, feminist, let's say, lifestyle understanding, sort of, I guess, zeitgeist, I don't know what else to call it, is that most definitely spreading, certainly to Europe anyways. And then we've got this. These are the numbers of births. So you look at below, anything, by the way, anything below 2 is below replacement level fertility rates. So the only country that is actually at 2, which is replacement level, is what, Turkey down there? Yeah. Right here. So those are some stats to, like, sort of, you know, to consider when we're talking about, like, whether or not, you know, this now, maybe not in Saudi Arabia, maybe not in, I don't know, Iran, maybe not in some other, maybe not in Japan. I don't know what the rates are there, but you can see that this is being imported in an age of globalization.
Yeah, but who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
That's the end of the show, guys.
I mean, that's probably listening right now. I have this awesome girl I'm dealing with who's a perfect candidate, and she's not like all these other people the way she acts and whatever. So maybe she'll be a person. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Well, you got to enjoy the decline, but I think
Yes.
in Russia and the Eastern countries, I mean, they get married very young. Like it reflected on that chart, you know, they get married very young, and then after a few years, they start to get a bit bored, and you know, and then they move on, which I think is why the marriage rates are so high there. I think probably the divorce rates. I think the divorce rates are probably lower in Western Europe because fewer people are getting married. To be frank. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it is partly this westernized, sort of Americanized, you know, culture and that's seeping over through social media and everything. But isn't this also just a reflection of how human nature actually is, which is that we find monogamy very difficult over the long term?
Right.
And, you know, it's kind of tricky, and you know, obviously now because we've let the cat out of the bag, there's much less social censure for divorce and splitting up and everything. And people could complain about that, you know, and the trads complain about it all the time. But is that cork ever going back in the bottle? Probably not, really. So we've all just got to find ways to live with it, basically.
Well, I constantly deal with guys who are like, it's kind of like this dichotomy. It's a split between guys who really want to say, hey, go get married. This is the best way to do it. I don't care if what the marriage rates say. I don't care what the dangers are. I don't care what the inherent risks are. I don't care what you know, God said go get married, and so you have to go get married. It's like sort of the Ruslan effect, right? And there's guys who really have a problem with the red pill because they think that it promotes this endless, like, you know, cycle of spinning plates, where in fact, as you were saying before, Troy, very few guys can actually pull that off. Most guys want to learn intersexual dynamics. They want to learn game. They want to learn all this, like everything that we've been doing for, gosh, in my case, 20 years, but you guys, what, 10, 15, who knows, right? They aren't coming into this space because they want to turn into Andrew Tate. They're not coming into this space because they want to be a player. They just want some girl that's going to like love them and be involved with them. So there is that element, but they're finding it difficult in an age where it is this constant, you know, choice paradox for women where they're always online. You got Tinder, you got Bumble, you got Hinge, I mean, God knows how many different ways that men and women find each other online, which is the number one way men and women meet today. And so they have to sort of balance that out, or they have to like sort of reconcile that with what they're learning from you, from me, from anybody else. So when I get in these conversations, I've got guys who are so like kind of like this old school, kind of like, well, get into be monogamous, whatever. That's what Leonardo DiCaprio is doing. He's being monogamous. He's just doing it, staggering it out 4 years at a time. Yeah. So is he doing it right? Or is the guy who say, you know what, or put it this way, is like a guy like George Gammon doing it right? He's never been married, doesn't have any kids, makes more money than God. He can have chicks on whenever he wants to get with chicks. He's 49 years old. He's been doing this really pretty much most of his life. Is he doing it right? Because he doesn't have any entanglements. He doesn't have any long-term girlfriends that are going, where is this going? Can we need to talk? You know?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is 100. George Gammon is 100% doing it right. I think George Gammon is one day. I mean, like without question.
Then you see a guy. Let me hold on before you hold that thought, Troy. Then you see a guy like Roosh who loses his shit, who loses his mind because now he's been constantly womanizing his entire life until he gets to the point where he has this epiphany where it's like, oh, you know, now I'm going to have this religious experience and now I want to be one man, one woman and everything else.
Well, he might be a pathological person though, right? So that's a whole different story.
True,
so like
true.
he just can't get his narcissistic supply from women anymore. So now he has to be the Lord.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He's getting strokes.
Tell me, if you've been like womanizing and writing books and all this.
I gotta
shit,
bounce, guys. It's a big weekend in
All right,
Michigan.
see you later.
All right,
Later.
yeah, sorry, guys. Next time, though.
If you're gonna write books and womanize to the extent that Rushdie did, and you didn't learn how to keep a woman around, you're not like that's not real game. You know, like these guys who are like they're in a relationship with a girl. I had a guy calling on Friday, right?
You only figured out part of it.
This guy's like 36 and his wife is 27. She's starting to get fat. He's paying all the bills, and she is now weaponizing sex against him. And I was just like, bro, how long have you been married to her? He said, we've been married 9 years. I was like, dude, then, bro, sorry to break it to you, but your wife is out gaming you. If you've been in the game for more than fucking 5 years, and you don't know how to control the woman that you're dating, you don't have fucking game. You are being, most likely you're being played. And a lot of these guys, you know, the thing is, you know, he's completely out of touch with reality, because he was doing it pre-Instagram. He was playing the globalization card before we would have globalization. And in one of his books, he would say he would go to the bar and flash his American passport.
Yeah, I think you said something like that. I think he said something like that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, he was playing the game in a very different time though, and yeah, he's gone completely the opposite way now. So he's maybe a little bit of an outlier. But Rollo, I was just thinking about, you were talking about those trad guys. Have you seen that guy recently who was arguing really aggressively with Ryan? Nolan's nutsack or something.
Yeah. That's what we. I can't use the word on YouTube, but that's what we called a moral bundle of sticks. You know.
And he was like, really. So is sex before marriage a good thing or a bad thing? Yes or no? And just really, really going for it aggressively.
Black or white, binary, yeah.
Yeah, and it's all Bible verses and stuff on his on his timeline. I mean, it's really interesting guys like that. I never understand guys like that who argue so vociferously and so aggressively for something that actually is pretty mediocre and pretty much anybody can do, really, which is to get shacked up. I don't really understand the mentality of those dudes. I mean, if that's what you want to do, then do it. 100% fine. But why are you on Twitter all day arguing for something that actually
they want reaffirmation of their choices and their lifestyle. They want people to tell them that they're living their lives right.
That's true. Because it's like let's face it. I mean, despite all of the black pill rhetoric and all the rest of it, actually getting married is not very hard, right? For most people,
this day and age, yeah,
it's not very hard. You can.
It's industrialized.
Exactly. It's not actually that difficult. It's actually, in a way, it's a deeply conventional path that actually most people end up doing. So why some bloke has to just be really pugnacious about it on social media seems odd.
John, I look like the before, and you look like the after photo. Right.
Fitch looks like one. Oh, I forget the guy's name. One of the guys from The Hangover.
1 month into the red pill, like 10 years into the red pill.
Red pill changed my life for the
better. I would say though, like honestly, though, I will say, I think that, and this is just my personal perspective. I will say though that, like, in regards to the whole womanizing thing, I think the reason why guys womanize so long, like Leonardo DiCaprio, etc., is because they don't have the game figured out. And he never had to figure out the game, right? He was eating Gilbert Grape. He was like famous since he was like 16, right? So I think like once you have the game figured out, once you understand the game, for me personally, it's boring now. I've mastered the game, right? I have dated hundreds of chicks. My two main chicks now both know about each other, both accept each other. We're openly all three dating, and we're all like, I just told them that's the way it's going to be, and it is what it is. And if you don't like it, fuck off. And they're like, no way, we're not going to find a better deal. And so I would just say that once you guys figure out the game, it gets boring. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, Troy, you've been in it for a while. You still have a good time chasing it down, but even you've mentioned to me that it's kind of lost its luster just a little bit. And I think the majority of things that keeps guys on the, on the male cock carousel as well, right? It keeps them on the carousel because there's like this mystery, this allure, this like unseen unpredictability, like chasing pussy. That's what the guy said. I got lucky. You know what I mean? I feel like once you figure it out, it becomes boring. It's like playing a video game with the cheat codes. Once you play when you play Grand Theft Auto, right? Once you put the cheat codes in, how often do you play Grand Theft Auto? Right? You play for like 30 minutes an hour. But when you play story mode in Grand Theft Auto and you're paced through the story and you're having to figure it out along the way, you'll play that game for hours and hours and hours on end.
One of those modes is direct game, and one of those modes is indirect game. Because I'll let Troy, you can opine on this because you've been in this a lot longer than anybody else has. But like if you've read my 5th book, I go into great detail about the differences between indirect and direct game. Again, this is not an advocation for either one of those, but I tried to present this because they get to the point that John is talking about here, where they learn indirect game and they're so effing good at indirect game that it gets boring. and they're like, you know what? Well, I wonder if I could just get from point A to point B with just being like brutally honest, upfront about everything, and be as direct and as succinct and as, you know, to the point as I possibly can. So I'm not wasting my time with, you know, all of these things that I know I could get laid if I used indirect game. Can I get laid if I'm using direct game? And that was really what spawned direct game. Was guys were bored of the thrill, I guess, of the hunt, or of the actual psychological games that you were playing at that time.
Yeah.
Troy.
Yeah.
The difference between indirect and direct, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's not get too much into this, or you'll get an angry missive from Alan Roger Curry.
Oh, I'm sure.
About mode one, but yeah, no, definitely. I think that you, like, certainly in our experience, right? I'm speaking for myself and James and other people who've been doing this for a while. I mean, you do tend to sort of graduate from doing more sort of elaborate stuff, and then it gets more and more simplified, more and more stripped down, more and more direct as you go on, because it gets boring, and then that then in itself gets boring because it becomes quite mechanical. I mean, James's game in Russia last year was pretty much getting their Instagram and then asking them for a date at the hotel bar, and then taking them up to the room after one drink. So it's sort of like it becomes very mechanical and a little bit dull after a while. Yeah. But I suppose, to answer your point, John, I mean, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it definitely doesn't have the same luster that it did for me when I was in my 20s. Obviously not. But at the same time, it's a bit like, okay, so what am I going to do now? You know, do I really want to sort of have, you know, the two girls like you've got, or do I want to? I mean, my personal way of sort of arranging it at the moment is more like having girls that I'm dating, and they're maybe in different places, and keeping things fairly casual, and that seems to work for me right now. But you know, I think the end game has always been the big question, hasn't it? You know, do you get married and just get the white picket fence and throw in the towel? Do you become Jesus, or do you go nuts? You know, I mean, and those seem to be the main options, really.
Well, the reason I throw that out there is, like, I use George Gammon as an example because he's a guy who's a very high value guy, has never really been never been married, not monogamous with anyone. And he's one guy of a few that I know of right now who are like, I could also use Jason Hartman as an example of this as well. Now, Jason wants to get married. He wants to find a girl and get after it, right? But he's been single up into his 50s right now, and he has no children. He has no back. And people will say, well, oh gosh, what a poor, destitute, what a valueless life that is. And it's like, I don't think that George Gammon thinks of his life as being valueless because of what he's chosen to do for the rest of, he probably will never get married. Then there's the guys who are, like you were saying before, who have lived this sort of libertine lifestyle for a long time. And then they want to sort of follow this script where they find the one girl who can sort of tame him. And then he settles down. And now he goes from being this incorrigible bachelor to being this, good, honest, pro-social family guy. And he goes from being Iron Man to being Captain America, right? So he goes from being this kind of, happy-go-lucky guy who can get, nail chicks on anywhere, anytime he wants to being the responsible adult now, because he's like lining up with the monogamy model that women want him to line up with because it serves their interests. That's why people have a problem with Leonardo DiCaprio, and they don't have any problem. They love to death Keanu Reeves, because Keanu falls into that script, or into that life plan, that template that women think should be the right way of doing things, which is marry a woman who is your age appropriate match, because you can talk to her and you're not afraid of, like, strong, independent. You're not threatened by powerful women. And don't be like Leonardo DiCaprio, who is essentially licking the ice cream all the time in 4-year increments. Or then you've got a guy like George Gammon right now who never, maybe he's licking the ice cream, maybe he's not. But the thing is like, he is okay. He's successfully making that work for them. And then you've got a guy like Roosh who's following that same plan and loses his mind as a result of it. So what I'm saying is, we're trying to figure out, like, I can show you successful examples of men who are, who will never get married, who are, going to be going from woman to woman to woman, if that's what they choose to do, until such times they can't do it anymore. Who's living the better life? Like, who's doing it right?
I'll just say this for the, like, if we were to map out all men, I would say for the average man, okay,
the 80%ers,
for the average guys out there, they would be more happy engaging in monogamy with one chick rather than not having anybody and going out there and gambling, trying to get some new pussy, chasing pussy for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
I think that, like, that's just, I mean, again, it's just the dawn of civilization. That's what we've been doing, man. It's just what we've been doing. You can go out there and do whatever you want, but the majority of people are ruining their fucking lives. But I would just say, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, I think that, I mean, because look, for example, John, I'll use John Fitch as an example. John is like, obviously, he's a player, he's multi-million-dollar earner, former world champion. He's fucking lived it up. He's done it all. And he's choose now to, settle down with a beautiful chick. I'll tell you this too, man. If you want to be successful, right? Going out there and chasing pussy all the time, it's a low ROI activity, and it is not going to. It's going to drain your money. It's going to drain.
It's a resource investment.
It's everything. It drains your money, drains your emotions. You have to spend time, money, and calories on those bitches, bro. Not worth it.
I've got James Tusk online too, John.
Bring him on.
You can come on, give him the link. If you want to give him the link, Troy, you go ahead.
He doesn't know how to use a laptop unless Troy's present.
No, you are right though, John. I mean, like the ROI for that stuff.
Oh no,
long term for a regular guy is outrageous.
Without a doubt, dude. Listen. The last year I made a fuckload of money, right? And that was like one of the lowest years of like new bangs I've gotten because I was just so focused on the business and the bull market. And it's an absolute correlation. That's why Tate was talking about how he got more bitches when he was broke than when he was rich.
Yes,
it's so true. Like Rollo, I don't think you would have had the success you've had in your life if you didn't have your wife with you. If you were out there chasing, fucking trying to be White Snake and
I would be a different person. Put it that way. I most definitely would be a different person. Now, I also say this though. I also say this is that I had to have the experience in my 20s and, up to the point where I married my wife. I had to have that experience before I could become who I am right now. I'm the sum total of my experiences from the time I was born to where I'm at right now. So the shit that I had to go through with a BPD girlfriend, the shit that I went through when I was, playing in the Hollywood club scene, everything that has led up to who I am right now as an author, as a person, as a father, as a husband, as a guy who's relating to people online right now, all of that comes from my experience, my past experiences, and what my interests, my studies, and anything that makes me who I am. So my question is this: are we doing guys a disservice by saying, you know what, just go find the one perfect girl, just go out there and look for the one, look for that soulmate, look for the girl who's going to be your perfect little wife and everything else, and don't worry about learning game, don't worry about learning red pill, don't worry about learning intersexual dynamics. And so, because part of that learning comes from the experience, part of that learning, it's like, I'm glad you read my books, but it comes from the lived experiences that you're having. So I think one of the things that we make a mistake is we think in terms of isolating game, money, muscles, and game right now. I think we make a mistake by saying, oh, don't chase women, don't chase this, chase excellence. Okay, great. Understand it, but the thing is there's synergies between all three of those things. So if you're a fat ass and you get your ass in the gym 6 months, 8 months later, because you look good and you're seeing more positive reinforcement that's coming to you from women who are interested in you now because your physique is better, how does that affect your game? How does that affect who you are? If you suddenly make a windfall of cash and in crypto or whatever it is, how does that cash affect your game? How does that affect other aspects of money, muscles, and game? And so I think it's a mistake to say, well, just focus on one thing and just go that way and everything else will settle itself. And I don't think that that's the case. I think that men need to figure out usually what is the main deficit they have in money, muscles, and game, and then focus on that first, but not to the neglect of all of the other two. So I think it's a mistake for anybody to say, well, don't go out and chase women. You should, if by chase women, you mean going out and go, hey baby, like constantly, playing whack-a-mole with girls. That's not what I'm talking about. learning women's nature, going out there, experiencing it. Red pill and game is the practice, red pill's the theory, and each one of those is incomplete without the other. We just mentioned a minute ago how guys will, like a guy like Mystery, for example, is suicidal because he can get chicks. He's a master of the game, but he's not red pill. He doesn't understand women's nature. So for all of his success with women, he never really understood, like the guy that you were talking about, John, the guy who's in the marriage right now, he knew how to get the girl. He didn't know how to live with the girl. He didn't know what that woman's nature was. He doesn't know how to respond and how to get girls to feed him pineapples on on a fucking live stream, right? He doesn't have that knowledge because it was an incomplete understanding of intersexual dynamics because it was all game and no red pill. Well, how do you understand that if you're not actually going out and pursuing that knowledge and trying to improve yourself as a guy in that area, in developing those social skills?
Gotta level up everywhere.
Yep.
Well, John's talking.
It's like it goes back to what you say, Rollo. What's that saying? Kids with dynamite.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, dream girls and children with dynamite, man.
That's why chase excellence, not woman, is shit advice, because all you're doing is you're prepping yourself to be a juicier target for predatorial women down the line. Don't believe me? Ask John Fitch. I mean, I'll look out for you, John. You know,
Even not even being fully blue pilled, still having some red pill knowledge about basic biology and behaviors. I still fell into the trap, the one-itis trap, the one, and letting your guard down, let them into your bank account. Big mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, making bad decisions because you have an incomplete knowledge of women's nature and your own nature for that matter too.
And John, how much did she get from you? How much did she clean you out of?
It was around $500,000. Some of those assets were
an expensive lesson. Yes,
a very expensive lesson. And the worst part is I'm trapped in California now. Like I can't leave.
So you're still paying for those sins, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's funny as well, and this is I hate to use John as an example, Fitch as an example here, but like people have been sending me these videos, and last night I was watching Sneeko and Destiny and was MJ get good?
It was good.
That was actually a pretty damn good show, but
he sucked dick.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll get to that. I keep getting these super chats. Hey, you're gonna talk about that? Yeah, we'll. Just give me a second. But there's a point there, and people have been sending me these videos of like Fresh saying, "Oh, I've never read The Rational Male. I choose to learn from experience." Well, John Fitch learned from experience too, and it was a very expensive. It was to the tune of $500,000. So. Would it have been better to have been red pill and understood that and not get rolled? Or could that have at least in some way, if not prevented that, been a buffer to how much you're going to lose or how much you're investing in it? I would like to say yes, but, yeah. So learned experience is great. I understand. I had to, as I just said, I had to go through my own experiences to get to the point, but they were very expensive experiences, both in
a smart man, a smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of other people.
There you go. There you go.
Why put yourself through it yourself? If you see somebody stick their arm in the riverbed and a crocodile eats their arm off, learn from that. Don't be like, well, that was just him. I got to go experience it myself. Stick my fingers in the water.
There is I think there's a qualifiable difference for men who can understand the value of education, and not necessarily because it's like, oh, go out and read or go do these things. It's like, if nothing else, have a mentor at the very least to help you along. Like, most guys don't have fathers. They don't have positive male mentors in their lives as it is right now. So if you're going to say, oh, I want to learn from experience, great. But understand that there's like, what is it? Experience teaches harsh, but it teaches best.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, let me get to these super chats and then we'll get out of here. This is from Whatasian. Is there a relationship between FOMO, fear of missing out, of potential as a man, and the desire to have a larger family, 3+ kids? Is waiting until your mid-30s still the best way to go about this based on your experience and insight?
I just think if you want it, you're gonna want it. I think our family's gonna slow you down to an extent, but like, look at all these people who've achieved great things in their life who's had families. You know what I mean? I don't understand. I just think that I think we live in a generation of people who are cowards. They want to fucking cross every T and dot every I before they take one step out the door. And the reality is, if you want to fucking win, like, let's be honest here. All four of us on this panel are experts with women, and we've all gone through like crippling heartache, like tears, on like nights of on no sleep, like not eating, stalking, depression, anxiety, freaking out, calling our friends, drinking, doing drugs. Like we've gone through the ringer. And the same thing with people who are super financially literate. People have gone through, like, I've lost $1 million+, man. It fucking sucks. But I've also made $1 million+. You have to go through these hardships in order to get the experience. And I think a lot of people are just so afraid to fucking take a shot at it. But I mean, are you just thinking that every person who's accomplished anything great in their entire life has been a single man without a family? No,
probably not. No, not through the course of history.
Probably more close to the other side. More of people who achieve things are family men rather than not family men, right?
But I think what happens is you kind of mix cause and effect, or causation. Correlation is not necessarily causation. So is it because the guy was a father, that's why he was a success, or was he going to be a success anyways? And as part of his achievements, he's also a really great father of 3, right? So, like, for instance, when I got married and we decided to have a kid, it wasn't an accidental pregnancy. We tried to have a kid. We intentionally tried to have a child, and we had the child. Okay. Only one by design. People always ask me, how come we didn't have more? That's so unfair. You need to breed more, right? Save the West. And I'm like, my biological duty is done. Okay. I put all my eggs in one basket, and I love my daughter. Like, I would take a bullet for my daughter. Got it. Okay. However, is that what's, I think the people tend to conflate the idea of like, well, I can't be truly successful unless I have like a kid. Okay. And then there'll be people who say, well, you're not really a success because you only had 1 kid. So now you have to have 2. Now you have to have 3, because if you don't, then you're not like putting your DNA into perpetuity. And so it becomes this sort of like dick measuring contest as to how many kids you have, versus like, do you have any kids at all? I would say this, when I think really having children is really a lifestyle choice. Honestly, it's like, I want to have kids. I want to be a dad. Great. When are you going to do it? I mean, I could argue and say it's better to do it earlier than it is to do it later. But for men, you can do it much later. My cousin is he's like 1 year younger than me, and his kids, I think his youngest kid is like 10. And I'm like, damn, he had him like really late in life. And I'm like, well, I mean, those are the choices that he made. But would you want to have a kid at 30, or would you rather have a kid at 40? Would you rather lose those 10 years with that kid and the development?
That's a little bit of the psyop about marrying women your age, because what are you going to do? Like, oh, I want to have kids when I'm 25. Well, what are you going to do? Okay, 20 years later, you're 45. So now what? You're still working your job. Are you going to divorce the mother of your children, or split from the mother of your children and start dating 20-year-olds? Or are you going to go on vacation all the time? Or like, what exactly are you doing?
On MLD.
I'm just like, why not just keep having kids? Like, I don't understand the reason not to.
You have 2 boys, right, John?
Yeah, I have 2 boys. No. And I'm like, I got 10 years. I'm thinking right now, I'm in 10 years, they're on their own in college, and then what am I doing? Like, I'm gonna be retired or whatever. Like, why wouldn't I just have more kids? Like, I like being a dad. It's fun. I think it's cool.
Yeah. I'll also, people say, well, you only have a daughter, Rolo. You don't have any sons. I'm like, I have millions of sons.
I'm Godfather.
Saying, aren't you worried about being the old dad? I'm like, I'm going to be a jacked 65-year-old. Like, I'll be in better shape than the 20-something-year-old dads who are there with the babies walking around,
Yep. Let's see who that was come on my podcast guy. I can't remember his name. I need to get him on my show. Tim Longley, do you think Leo might legitimately be leaning into the meme at this point? Probably. He's definitely leaning into the meme. Like, this is how I know. love that. I got to look at his eyes. One more time. Well, look, it's amazing. And this was like a whole new world. That is classic, man. That's if you don't love Leo for any other reason, you should love him for that. But anyways, let me get back to you. There's something to be said about an air of bravura. There it is, right there, and his fame won't last forever.
Well, I mean, come on, man. I think it's
gonna last forever.
He's set for life now, man.
Brad Pitt, he's still in movies and killing it. Brad Pitt's still hot in his 50s.
Even if Leo made another film, he's set for life now, man. It's a cope to say that.
Yeah, he is set for life. He's gonna be like The Rock.
I mean, he does his whole like whatever global warming stuff. So he's just doing events and balls and black tie shit all year round. He doesn't have to.
Yeah, I got into it wasn't really a debate or an argument, but it was like guys were talking about how like if it weren't for one thing, Leonardo would be embraced by the Hollywood wokesy leftists. And that one thing is the fact that he's nailing like 25-year-olds in succession right there. And I should say that, where is it? This shit right here. This makes him shunned by like wokesy leftists right here. Like that's the level of it. If you want to know what the sliding scale of important like issues are, like the things that'll get you like banned or whatever, the things that will like they won't allow you in like sort of the woke cool club, cool kids club. At the top of that list is the womanizing that Leonardo DiCaprio does. That they can't say, well, you're not actually cheating on them, but you do have a habit here. That's more important than the fact that he might be a global warming, or he might be on board with all their other issues. That's the one thing that gets him canceled.
Dude, it's crazy. He piped Tom Brady's wife.
Really?
Look, pull the chart back up.
That was the first girlfriend.
The first one is that Giselle, like that is Giselle Brady then, right? Or Giselle, what's her name?
That's Tom Brady's fucking wife, bro.
Oh man, I had no idea that was who that was. Are you sure? I thought her last name was something different.
No, that's her, G. That's her.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's what I thought for a second.
Win 17 Super Bowl rings to get that.
She was
acted like a retard, and he got it for.
And she was 16, and he was 24. Oh, I had no idea that was Tom Brady's wife. I probably was in the chat and I just missed it. Let's see. Here we go. Shake again. Leo being honest about his boundaries is respected by women. Yes and no. They were trying to make that issue like say at least he's honest about it. At least you can see the pattern. At least he's not like trying to say, hey, I'm going to marry you, and there's some sort of like carrot to keep the donkey pulling the cart there. He lays out his desire, stays consistent. All my relationships are successful if I learned from experience, not hoped for perfect. Let's see. What's the next one here? Let's see. Maybe he is able to have a higher quality experience dating one young girlfriend for a while than he would be with a large quantity of short flings.
Well, yeah, he probably is, because like we said, I mean, like Tusk actually says, you want the chase, you want the sex, and you want the snuggles. There's three things that guys commonly want, and Leo's kind of getting all of them. So yeah,
he's for sure stepping out on her, bro. Come on, I mean, they're like his like face front, like
Well, this is we were speculating on this before you turned up. Yeah, you're probably right.
For sure. If I step out, Leonardo DiCaprio stepping out.
This is good. Stillwater says Neil Strauss even pointed out that same point in the game. Guys whose self-esteem depended on women's validation ended up ruining themselves. That is why you must kill the beta. Yeah. Have you guys seen that video of that kid who got shot in Ohio? I'm sure it's all over Twitter right now. It's like
he came back to his ex-girlfriend. That was 2 years after she'd broken up with him.
Yeah. And he came out from California, tried to reconnect with her, tried to push his way into the door because he really wanted, you're the love of my life, And in any other like romantic sense, like some sort of like Shakespearean drama that would have like worked out, and she'd go, oh, okay, true love, blah blah blah. That kid got one in the chest and two in the back. Because of that. And that's, like I said, kill the beta before it kills you. The only reason that kid was out there doing that shit, and what is he, 22? I can't even tell how, like, he was pretty young. That dude like fell dead in the driveway, and girls are like, yeah, he deserved it. He should have got killed.
The
Smile.
girlfriend was laughing.
Girlfriend, the
She was
ex-girlfriend was
laughing in the police interview. She's joking and laughing and smiling
because his self-esteem depended on her validation. That's why.
Did the parents shoot him? Did they shoot him because he broke in the house?
Did.
Yeah, father did.
Okay.
Yeah, a castle doctrine in Ohio, definitely. So, like, he was trying to force his way into the house, and as far as he knew, you saw it all in the Ring video camera, thing that was going on there. And I was like, damn, that's pretty some serious ass shit. But the dude's dead.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Easiest way to get someone to want you is not want them. Life is about can't chase what they can have. Two people who can't resist each other is organic chemistry. A woman breaks rules for alphas. That's what he's trying to get to.
There you go.
Let's see. Oh, Troy, I got something for you. Troy Francis is Red Pill Receipts. Welcome back, man.
Troy, I will double down on that. I saw some of these girls that Troy's been dealing with, bro. Troy, you still got it, you dog.
Troy's a real I know. People don't appreciate you enough, man. I swear.
These girls look
Thanks,
like
guys.
freaking models, man. They were smoke shows.
Yeah, cheers, man. No, definitely having a good season out here in Eastern Europe.
Yeah. I got major leagues. Majority of women will protest for BLM, abortion. Why won't they protest against child support and alimony to moderate and change the laws if it can be eliminated? Well, of course they're not going to.
Shows, bro. They don't give a shit.
They're not going to go against their own self-interest. They own the game, man. That's why. It's pretty self-explanatory. And then Kyle once again says, I cringed through episodes 1 and 2, but rage quit 3 long before the twerking of She-Hulk. Because that's the only twerking I know of right now. So let's get some references here. Can't wait to talk about to a 10 about embarrassing man stuff. She might be my next fiance. Where I turned it off and frolicked outside.
It's so bad.
Have you seen it? Have you seen She-Hulk?
We've been watching it just because we've watched every Marvel movie together. We watched all the WandaVisions and all the spinoffs, and it's just so it's basically
I refuse.
Basically feminism. You have Tony Stark and Captain America, who are the backbone of the entire MCU. They built this entire franchise, and now you have all the freaks and the women coming in and leeching off the dead cartridge, and that's exactly what's happening right now. It is so painfully awful.
Fan fiction.
Oh, it's so bad. That chick is an insufferable cunt. She's such a bad actress. She's so ugly. She's so untalented. The story is an abortion or an abomination, should I say? Right?
No, I didn't, Robert. I'm getting to it. I just held it off. Yeah.
It's terrible. It's so bad.
I kind of want to go on Masculine Geek and talk about that too, because I'm seeing more and more of this crap right now. I'm sort of cautiously watching through
the Predator, the new Predator movie. Jesus.
Mary Sue.
The first one was about a group of like elite military killers, and they struggled and barely defeated the monster.
Yep.
But this is
the new Predator is?
15-year-old Native American with some fucking sticks killed him.
Yep.
Yes, exactly. And a little girl on top of that. No, you know what it is? You know what the new Predator is? It's just a retelling of Brave with the Predator, with an alien in the movie. It's pretty much what it is. It's just a retelling of that story. Let me see if I can flush the rest. And no, Robert, I haven't forgotten I'm just holding it out for a moment. Give me a second here. Let's see. Yellow says women's nature is very complicated to mostly young men due to constant lies and assumptions men make. Without the manosphere, it's almost impossible for kids without proper red pill fathers and role models to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Right. Again. Robert, that's your shit. Hang on one second. I'll come back to you. Let's see. King Grand. I will women view me on social media. ESL, dude. English as a second language.
He sent a $20 one again. Same question, better grammar. He just one.
Oh, is there another one down there?
Yeah, it's the latest one. It's the same guy he reiterated it with better grammar.
Sorry, better grammar guy. Where are you? Oh, there it is.
1999.
I see it. Hang on. There it is. Better grammar. Thanks, King. Why will women view me on social media but won't slide in my DMs and they think I'm attractive?
I got this. So first of all, he's talking about stories on Instagram. So listen, dude, first things first, everybody's addicted to Instagram. Her checking your stories, it's not that special.
She's not interested.
Second of all, the fact that you're waiting for a woman to reach out to you, you're retarded. Like, you need to reach out. You need to make it happen. If she leaves your DMs on red, she's not interested. Move on. Period.
End of story.
Yeah, if they're just looking at your stories, it's one thing. But if they're like interacting with your stories, if they're putting a haha face or whatever on it, that's as far as the extent of their like making a move is going to be. What do
you rate them engaging on your polls, John? What if they like, the slide bar or voting on the polls? Is she down or is she bored?
They could be bored, but like there's interest, they're interacting, they're investing. If they're investing a little bit,
but you should then
you could throw something back.
You should drop them some sort of message.
Like make a joke, send a funny meme, something like that.
Send a disappearing dick pic.
Yeah. Let me get to Robert here because he thinks I missed this. Is bankruptcy considered a red flag when it comes to a potential mate? Would like to get everyone's perspective on this.
If you can keep your finances completely separate and never intertwine them in any way, if you can keep them as a separate entity 100% financially, that's
potential mate. What do you mean by potential mate? Potential plate or potential mate?
Yeah, potential plate, I don't think it's a problem. Potential life partner,
mother of your children. No.
Yeah. But it's a green flag. It's a green flag.
Green flags if you're trying to hook up.
Yeah. If it's for long term, Rich Cooper will be spinning in his sauna reading his comment. Of course, it's a red flag.
Yeah, I would say, okay, I think it's interesting because it comes hot on the heels of the I guess ruling now that Biden's going to forgive $10,000 in student debt right now, which, by the way, I just saw recent projections for how long it will take for the debt load to get back to the current load. It's only like 4 or 5 years, even with $10,000 in forgiveness, because people have a lot more than just $10,000 in student loans to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're all women, or mostly 2/3 of them are women.
And you only get that if you make less than $120,000 a year.
That's true. That is true as well. Okay. Last but not least, I'm going to get to these and we'll get out of here. Dirty Mike is basically the same thing. Thoughts on Destiny's arguments last night? Care to tell me which arguments? I know which ones are.
You sucked the dick, so it's all invalid.
Exactly. And then the other thing is thoughts on Destiny said about you won't debate him. No, I'll debate him. I'll be happy to do that. In fact, I think Myron wanted to work that out so I could come out there and go and meet him face to face. But you don't want me to debate him. You really don't. You know what you want? You want fight. This is what you want.
Finish him.
That's what you want. You want entertainment. You want gladiatorial, combat. What is it?
But listen, Roll, I'll say this though. So when Destiny was on Twitch, right? He was definitely one of the top 5 streamers for men on Twitch. Okay, if you can defeat Destiny clearly in a debate, that is like massive internet clout. Like if you can absolutely clearly shut him down, that is like a massive feather in your cap.
Well, it shouldn't be too hard after that performance last night with Sneeko and himself and MJ. By the way, MJ Get Good, I don't know who that guy was, but I was very impressed by that guy. I want to get him on the show.
To the left of Destiny and his girl.
Yeah.
Black dude. Yeah, that guy's pretty smart.
That dude was on point. MJ, if you watch the show, I definitely want to get an interview with you because after that one, I thought that was pretty damn good. But he was like the bright point in yesterday's show. Now, the other thing is this. Let me just bring up. I don't want to again ad homs, but whatever. Destiny is bisexual. Destiny is in a poly relationship with this chick who is basically, why are we taking the dude fucking seriously? He's essentially fucking, Jack Murphy at this stage. Why is that a thing?
Why is that?
The guy's best friends with Abba, who was admitted to how liking to be milked and the finer points of being milked. Don't Google that. And then you've got, Like, you haven't seen that? Oh man, I got to give you that video, man. He and actually Preach was on there too, and it was with what's her name, Shan Booty. It was on her show, and he was talking about how he enjoyed being milked, and I was like, okay, done. Finished with that one. And then on top of that, almost within like the same month, we find out that Allende has been a gay male stripper for something like 10 years now in Miami. These are the people, really? So if I go and like soundly defeat him, you win the debate with the guy who's bisexual, farms out his girl.
And then there's fat guys in Brazil that like to bang trannies.
Yeah, there you go. There's another. Why don't you? You know, it's funny. No one asks me to debate like Jordan Peterson. Nobody asked me to go and debate. Like, how come you're not like? They don't ride my ass on those. Why don't you debate John Anthony? Why don't you debate? It's only like dudes who are like just like whack job, like Alex from Playing with Fire, right? Yeah. Those are the guys you want me to debate, not guys who actually. Like, can I get God Sod on and talk to him about things about evolutionary psychology, Evo Bio? No. Go talk to Destiny. And second of all, they have no idea what a debate is.
So let me just ask you this, because I'm not as Mr. Intellectual brainy like you are, but can a guy be alpha and allow his wife to go out and get fucked by other dudes? Because I just don't see it. That's disgusting. Like I couldn't look at myself in the mirror and be like, I'm okay with this as a person. To like, okay, go out there, Miss LMLD, suck some dick, get out there and be
awful. That's
Where are the memes? Where are the memes of Destiny with the Jack Murphy cuckold beard, the skunk beard? Yeah. Why are we not making that connection right there in first place? And it's
what's like the evolutionary biology behind that role? Like letting your wife go out and get fucked by other dudes.
That is really kind of acquiescing to your status as a low value beta male. You're essentially what it is it's this. Honestly, I think what it is it's social conditioning, and it's social constructionism to the point where, and every point that Destiny made last night, and pretty much anything I've ever heard him talk about when it comes to intersexual dynamics, first of all, he relies on binaries, but those binaries are rooted in social constructionism. So it's like, men need to emote more like women, men need to be more emotional. Can't we just all get a hug? Can't we all I'm like, no, because men and women are different. We process emotions differently. Especially negative emotions. And I can show you study after study after study, that research that backs that up. I can show you that our brains are literally not wired the same. Women prioritize emotion before reason, and unconditioned men prioritize reason before emotion. We have a conversation right now. We're relating information to one another. Once we're done, we might think about how that made us feel. For women enjoy conversation, enjoy that relating, because there's an emotional response, and it's enjoyable to them because they prioritize the emotion before reason. And so when you go and you look at studies like that, and when you look at empirical evidence like that, when I was just like, I was putting in like super chat after super chat in the after hours show yesterday, trying to make the point that everything that comes out of his mouth is pretty much based on social constructionism. There's nothing that is empirical that comes out of his, in his takes. So if we make this happen, the first thing I'm going to do is like, here I am, pussy. Tell me what you're going to tell me about. Tell me about how you're, it's the same kind of like, I have a real problem with Dr. Jeff Miller, because he and Diana Fleischman are in this sort of poly relationship. And he knows better. He understands the study about human mate guarding. He understands the studies about jealousy, and he sweeps that under the rug because his lifestyle needs some kind of affirmation. He needs some sort of reinforcement to back up the poly lifestyle that he lives with and promotes and evangelizes over with his wife / girlfriend, or whoever she is to him right now. And again, if you go and you look at the studies for poly relationships, they end up in violence.
Do you know how he met that girl?
No, I don't know the background.
He was a super fan, and she had a boyfriend at the time, and she saw that he was in the area, and she left her boyfriend to run and hang out with him because she knew Destiny had fame and money and all that shit. And
jacking, yeah,
she sucked
jacking his game right now. Yeah,
she Kamala Harris'd it.
Kamala Harris.
Straight up, she has her own. She's verified on fucking Twitch now. This girl was a bum before she met Destiny, and Destiny's let's be honest, Destiny's a beta male. That Destiny is not an alpha male in any sense. He was a clear beta male, and so she went in there, finessed him with some pussy, and talked him into like, oh yeah, we can have this polyamorous relationship because she doesn't really just want to be fucking this guy. You know what I mean? She wants to get out and go get piped down by fucking, Jack Chads, not that little like squirmy.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something else, John, is I can show you studies from Rob. Well, I mean, they're reported by Rob Henderson or Rolf Deegan, where when it comes to an open relationship, it is always embraced, or it is always promoted, or it always accepted by the party that has the most to gain from that open relationship. So if it's women, they're all on board with an open relationship. It's men are all on board with an open relationship because they can make it work. Now, of the two sexes, which sex can make an open relationship work more than who has the most options at this stage? Like high value men. Yeah. Okay. Well, fine. They can, it's funny is like, we don't give anybody shit. We don't give like Destiny shit or anybody, these guys who want to talk about like open relationships. We don't give them shit for any of that, but we will give Andrew Tate shit for essentially saying, I spin plates.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how is that any fucking different than saying, I let my wife go out on Tinder and get railed while I'm in here doing this interview right now.
And the majority of women, when they're out there,
and Destiny's not.
Well, the majority of women when they're out
there. Hey guys, I gotta get going.
All right, man. See you later, John. What you got going on real quick, John? Before you go, I want to make sure you
go down for sign up for the newsletter. I got programs coming down the pipe. Check them out.
Cool. All right, man. Thanks for coming. All right, guys. Like,
I got to head out as well, Rollo.
Yeah, I probably should. Go ahead and give you a speaker piece there, Troy.
Myself and James Tusk have got a world-class course out at the moment. It's called The Edge. It teaches you everything you need to know about having edge as a man. That is to say, having that dark triad, bad boy persona that women love and find magnetic. If you're going out and approaching it, but you're not getting the results that you want in dating, it's probably because you're a bit boring, you're a bit bland, you're a bit vanilla, and you need to capitalize and you need to create edge. Okay, so go to the website, www.dancingontheedgeofaknife.com. That's dancingontheedgeofaknife.com. Give you all the information about the course, which includes 15 video components, us mentoring you via WhatsApp for the rest of the year and going into next year as well, plus Zoom calls. All right, so go and have a look at it now, dancingontheedgeofaknife.com, and sign up. You've got until Thursday to do so.
Right on. Thanks for joining us, Troy. John, what do you got going on, man?
I'm just back. I'm back on YouTube. I'm live streaming daily now. I went double viral with my recent approach, so you can go check me out. I'm now the most viral member of Real Zero. Two of my videos hit the multi-million-dollar mark, and just back in the saddle. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going to be rocking out from now until the end of the year. Probably going to be doing a United States tour again. Probably going to hit California, Texas, and Florida. Most likely going to be going to Bogota, Colombia for the Bogota Bad Boys reunion party. Me, James Tusk, and Troy Francis. That'll be like mid October. So if anybody's in Bogota and wants to link up, hit me up on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, Hot Dude Life. And then, that's pretty much all I got cooking right now. I'm just in the saddle, recovering and having a good time.
Right on. How'd the surgery go? Was it good? Any complications or anything?
They were liberal with giving me all the anesthesia I wanted.
That's awesome. Okay, guys, I will. Okay. So let me just put the period on the end of this sentence here. Is I'm open to doing a debate with Destiny. If Myron and Fresh want to make it happen in Miami, I'm all about it. However, I'll throw this one caveat out there. I want to know what we're supposed to be talking about, because if it ends up being a Ruslan bullshit show where it's like, oh, let's see if you're a real bad guy or a real good guy, right? You want to give me topics? Fine. Let me know what those topics are. I'll be happy to do a real fucking debate. Okay. Not like, oh, is he a bad guy? No, that's not a debate. All right. Give me the topics. Let me know what you want to talk about. I'm happy to go over those things. So that's coming up. Today, I will be actually within 3 hours at 2 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Eastern time. I'm doing a live stream from my rehearsal studio here for Trial of Ascension, the band that I play in. We dropped our our third EP on Spotify, and this is our first live Q&A that we're going to do from within the rehearsal studio. So it's going to be a Q&A about music. Please don't ask me like, oh, go debate Destiny. Okay, give me some questions about music and some other stuff. It's supposed to be off topic on this one, so we'll do that. As far as bankruptcy is concerned, yeah, it's a red flag. There's your permission, Robert. I would definitely, any kind of bankruptcy, I would be. You know what? Get a credit report on your girlfriend, the girl that you want to make your girlfriend or your wife. Get a credit report before you do it, and get into something that you will regret later on. That's part of the, be prepared anyway. So go ahead and do that. All right, guys, I'll see you later. John, thanks for joining me. And we'll see you guys next time. I don't know who's got the duties. It might be you. It might be Ryan. I'm not really sure at this point, but do you know who's next up in the schedule?
I'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. Okay, it's either you or it's Ryan. Next Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, Rule 0. Please join us, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.